Chapter 336. After destroying the Mount Hua sect, Li Changsheng still went to Lonely Mountain. During the sword-down meet, he and Ding Qingxue went up the mountain to play. He also discovered that there was a small spirit meridian at the foot of Lonely Mountain. Although the spirit meridian was very small, it was still 2 or 3 times richer in spiritual energy than other places. With the help of the spirit gathering array, it could be used as a place for cultivation. Li Changsheng found a cave on Lonely Mountain and then used the spirit stones that he had obtained from the Mount Hua sect to set up a medium-sized spirit gathering array. He then began to cultivate in seclusion. Since his rebirth, it was Li Changsheng's first time truly going into seclusion. Under the spirit gathering array, the spiritual energy at the foot of Lonely Mountain formed a mist that merged into his body. It could be seen that Li Changsheng's strength was increasing every day. There was no sun or moon in the mountain, and cultivation took a long time. When cultivating in seclusion, one would not notice the passage of time at all. By the time Li Changsheng had absorbed almost all the spiritual energy from the spirit meridian below and had no choice but to come out, he realized that 2 months had already passed outside. In 2 months, it had turned from late autumn to winter. Standing on Lonely Mountain, it just so happened to be the first snowfall of early winter. Drifting in the air, Li Changsheng couldn't help but feel deeply moved. The distance between Lonely Mountain and Qingzhou was not far, and with Li Changsheng's speed, it only took him more than 20 minutes to rush back. After returning to Qingzhou, Li Changsheng first returned to his villa. After 2 months, his phone had run out of battery. As soon as it was charged, he turned it on and saw several call-in notifications. There were calls from Yu Wei, Jiang Tao, and others. That made Li Changsheng feel for the first time that he had truly become a part of this city. There were people who missed him, cared about him, and cared about him. He saw that the most recent call was from Bai Jinbin. There was a text message from Bai Jinbin who said that Bai Qingxue would be returning to China soon and asked if he wanted to go with him to pick her up at the airport. He saw that Bai Qingxue's flight information was on the 10th of December. He looked at the calendar and realized that it happened to be today. Bai Qingxue's plane was flying back to Qingzhou at 2 o'clock. It was 12 o'clock now, just in time. When Li Changsheng thought of Bai Qingxue's face, he couldn't help but miss her. Unknowingly, Bai Qingxue had been abroad for more than 4 months. He went out and bought a brand new suit from the store next door. Then, he went to the florist next door and ordered a bouquet of flowers. Looking at the time, it was just 1 o'clock. It would take half an hour to get to the airport, and with the traffic jam, there was more than enough time. She hailed a taxi. When the driver saw Li Changsheng's appearance, he couldn't help but laugh. "Young man, it's obvious that you're going to the airport to pick up your girlfriend. I really envy you young people. Romantic and full of longing for the future." When the driver saw Li Changsheng, he couldn't help but think of their youth. Along the way, he sighed as he drove. Li Changsheng also chimed in from time to time. When they finally arrived at the airport, the taxi stopped by the roadside. When they got off the car, the bald middle-aged man made an encouraging gesture to Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng smiled, then adjusted his suit and walked toward the arrival gate. From afar, he saw the Bai family, Bai Jinbin, Bai Rulin, and the old man Bai Guangyuan waiting there. Li Changsheng was about to greet Bai Jinbin and the others when he suddenly saw the Bai family rushing towards the gate. He saw a woman wearing fashionable clothes, sunglasses, and a silver suitcase in her hand walking out. Who else could it be but Bai Qingxue? He hadn't seen Bai Qingxue for a few months, and she was becoming more and more beautiful. Li Changsheng took a deep breath, and there was a rare trace of nervousness. He tidied up his formal suit again and strode over to give Bai Qingxue a big surprise. At this time, he saw a young man walk out quickly and walk to Bai Qingxue's side. He handed a bottle of mineral water to Bai Qingxue and naturally took the silver suitcase in her hand. Bai Jinbin and the others also showed a puzzled expression and asked, "This is—" Before Bai Qingxue could speak, the young man smiled and said, "This is second uncle, right? I'm Qingxue's boyfriend." When the word boyfriend came out, Li Changsheng heard it clearly. At this moment, the smile on Li Changsheng's face froze. His footsteps also stopped abruptly. At this time, Bai Qingxue looked up and saw Li Changsheng holding flowers. She was stunned on the spot, and a trace of panic flashed in her eyes. The Bai family felt the strange atmosphere and turned around at the same time. When they saw Li Changsheng, they were all shocked. Changsheng, Bai Jinbin opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. He showed a bitter smile on his face. He couldn't get through to Li Changsheng's messages and calls, so he thought Li Changsheng wouldn't come. He didn't expect Li Changsheng to show up. Qinxue, this is? The young man next to her looked a bit suspicious. Changsheng, Bai Qinxue opened her mouth. Li Changsheng smiled faintly. Looks like you thought it through. After saying that, a bitter look appeared on his face. He turned around, walked to the trash can beside him, and threw the flowers in his hand into it. Then he resolutely walked to the side of the road, stopped a taxi, got in, and left. The Bai family members didn't realize what had happened until more than 10 seconds after Li Changsheng left. Bai Jinbin grabbed Bai Qinshue's hand and pulled her to the side. He asked with a gloomy face, Qinxue, what's going on? Bai Qinxue shook her head and said, Uncle, he's not my boyfriend. He's just one of my admirers. I didn't accept him. Bai Jinbin heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Bai Qinshue's words. Everyone in the Bai family had already thought of Li Changsheng as their son-in-law. But soon, Bai Jinbin's face darkened again. Since you didn't accept him as your boyfriend, why did you come back with him? Don't you know that this will give others hope and cause misunderstandings? Otherwise, that young man wouldn't have said that he's your boyfriend. Uncle, he's from the Wang family in Beijing. Bai Qinshue's words shut Bai Jinbin's mouth obediently. You mean Wang Chongwang's Wang family? At this moment, Bai Jinbin's face was filled with shock. There were many powerful families in China. They weren't well known, but only those who were in their circle knew how powerful they were. The Wang family in Beijing was one of them. Wang Xietong's Yin family flew into the ordinary people's families. The Wang family and Xie family were already famous families in the East Jin dynasty. The Wang family in Beijing was the descendant of the Wang family. A family that had existed for thousands of years must have accumulated a lot of power. No wonder you went back to Qingzhou with him. But between him and Li Changsheng, who do you want to choose? At this moment, even Bai Jinbin was no longer determined. Li Changsheng had qi behind him, but he wasn't as powerful as the Wang family in Beijing. Chapter 337. Li Changsheng left the airport with a wry smile. When he got into the taxi, he found that it was the same one that sent him here. But thinking about it, he got out of the car in a hurry and left in a hurry, so the driver didn't have time to pick up another customer. The driver looked at Li Changsheng, who was somewhat lost, and didn't ask anything. He just sighed and muttered, Everyone has to grow up. He pulled Li Changsheng all the way back to the city. Originally, Li Changsheng wanted to go back to school directly, but when they passed by a barbecue stall, the driver suddenly stopped the car on the side of the road. Looking back at Li Changsheng sitting in the back, he smiled and said, Do you want to go down and drink some wine? It's my treat. Okay. Li Changsheng nodded. Although it was said that drowning one's sorrows with alcohol was more sorrowful, especially for people like him. Not to mention 1,000 glasses, even 10,000 glasses wouldn't make him drunk. But it seemed that when people were worried, drinking some wine could really ease their mood a lot. It wasn't necessarily because of the anesthesia of alcohol, but just to find something to do with his empty heart. The two stopped at the barbecue stall. The taxi driver obviously knew the owner of the barbecue stall. He introduced himself as Su Hong, who finished high school in the 90s. His family originally arranged for him to be a teacher. But because the salary of a teacher was not as high as that of a worker in a supply and demand cooperative, he chose to be a salesman and later lost his job. During that time, he said a lot, such as that high school students were really valuable at that time. If he didn't choose the wrong road, he wouldn't have to run all over the street now. Li Changsheng mostly played the role of a listener. When the barbecue was finished, the sky was completely dark. He called a designated driver for Su Hong and exchanged phone numbers when they left. Back to school, Jiang Tao and the others were playing games. They were surprised to see Li Changsheng come back. Jiang Tao shouted even more exaggeratedly, Changsheng, you've been missing for such a long time. If you still didn't come back, I would have called the police to find you. I would have suspected that you were dismembered by your enemies in some dark corner of the world. Of course, Jiang Tao was joking. They also knew a part of Li Changxing's identity. They knew that Li Changxing wasn't an ordinary college student. Changsheng, the semester is about to end. Can you find a position in your company for us to intern during the holidays? Yang Fan asked directly. Although college students seemed to be carefree every day, they actually faced a lot of pressure, especially people like Yang Fan and Zhang Xiaofeng. They were not as capable as Li Changsheng, nor were they born with a silver spoon in their mouths like Jiang Tao. Adapting to society early and finding a foothold was what they were most concerned about at the moment. Of course, Li Changxing smiled. You're always welcome. Just let me know which company you want to go to. Li Changxing now had more than one company under his name. He had Zhu Daping and others set up a medicinal material company, as well as the Junka Group set up with the help of Su Xiaolin. By the way, Changsheng, I heard that you have a good relationship with Principal Chenligua. You have to be careful. Although it doesn't matter if you don't go to college. Since you're here, it's best to finish your studies smoothly. What do you mean? Li Changxing's face showed a puzzled look. Principal Chenligua has been transferred to another place. The new principal is the former vice principal Shen Donghai. Shen Donghai and Chenligua don't get along well. After taking office, many of Principal Chen's former subordinates were transferred to other places by him, so you have to be careful. Hearing Jiang Tao's words, Li Changxing nodded. He didn't expect Chenligua to be transferred, but this guy Shen Donghai. Li Changxing couldn't help but sneer. If the other party didn't provoke him, it would be fine. But if he provoked him, he would teach him a lesson. They hadn't seen each other for a long time, and they talked all night. And when Li Changxing told them that Junka Group and Shinnong Pharmaceutical were his companies, Yang Fan and Zhang Xiaofeng were shocked again. They were all students, but Li Changxing had reached a point that was beyond their reach. Early the next morning, Li Changxing received a call from Su Jing, saying that a vice principal was going to have a meeting with all the teachers in the school today. Li Changxing was the coach of the school, and he was also the external PE teacher of the school, so he also needed to attend the meeting. After asking for the address, Li Changxing came to the administrative building of the East Campus. Just as he walked to the door of the building, he saw a familiar figure. Director Huang. He remembered that on the first day he came to the school, Jiang Tao invited everyone out for dinner, and he invited Director Huang. Later, Director Huang learned about the relationship between Li Changxing and Chenligua. Every time he saw Li Changxing, his attitude was very respectful. Coach Li, Director Huang also saw Li Changxing, and his face showed a bit of joy. Coach Li, where are you going? Didn't you say there was a meeting? It's my first time in the administrative building. Where's the meeting room? The meeting room, it's on the 3rd floor. The new vice principal is looking for trouble with Principal Chen's old subordinates. With your relationship with Principal Chen, I'm afraid he will make things difficult for you. When the time comes, you must bear with it. Now that Principal Chen has left, it's different from the past. Now I'm like a clay Buddha crossing the river. Director Huang gave Li Changsheng a few instructions. Just then, a young teacher came over. He waved his hand and said, Little Cheng, this is the external coach of the fighting team, Li Changsheng. Take him to the meeting room. Hearing Director Huang's words, Mr. Cheng's face showed some confusion. Since the new principal took office as the new principal's henchman, that vice principal Yang had been using his connections to intimidate others, holding meetings every few days. As an external physical education teacher, Li Changsheng didn't even know where the meeting room was. However, seeing that Li Changsheng and Director Huang's relationship wasn't ordinary, he suddenly understood. He must be the former principal's connection. He couldn't help but look at Li Changsheng with a bit of pity. Recently, Chenligua's trusted followers were being ostracized and suppressed every day. They were scolded badly in every meeting. Another poor guy who was about to be targeted. This Mr. Cheng thought to himself. However, he agreed. Okay, Coach Li, come with me. He went to the 3rd floor with Mr. Cheng. At this time, everyone in the meeting room was basically present. A greasy middle-aged man with half a bald head was standing at the door of the meeting room with his hands on his waist. He had a big belly. When he saw Li Changsheng and Mr. Cheng, he immediately pulled a long face and said in a low voice, "Little Cheng, what's the matter? I told you to be here 10 minutes early. Why are you on time?" Hearing Vice Principal Yang's words, Mr. Cheng hurriedly admitted his mistake. "Vice Principal Yang, something happened on the way here, and I'm late. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." Vice Principal Yang seemed to be very satisfied with Mr. Cheng's attitude. He nodded, "Okay, just this once." After that, he looked at Li Changsheng with some doubts. This is Mr. Li Changsheng, the coach of the combat team." "Combat team?" The other party frowned, as if he suddenly remembered something. His gaze became unfriendly. "In the past few meetings, there was someone who was absent every day. That was you, right? You didn't come to the meetings, and there was no record of you taking leave. Do you still have any respect for me, the vice principal?" Hearing the movement at the door, many teachers in the meeting room looked outside. Many people began to gloat. In the past few meetings, the vice principal was always missing a person when he called the roll. Everyone was already curious about who it was. Now that they saw the person, they couldn't help but sympathize with Li Changsheng. A new broom sweeps clean, and it was obvious that one of them was going to burn Li Changsheng's head. Mr. Chang gave Li Changsheng a look that said, "Vice Principal Yang, I met this coach Li downstairs. He said he couldn't find a meeting room, so I brought him up." What he meant was that he didn't know Li Changsheng, so he shouldn't be implicated. As expected, Vice Principal Yang nodded. "You can go in." "Okay." Mr. Cheng hurriedly slipped into the meeting room, as if he had been granted amnesty. At this moment, looking at Vice Principal Yang's aggressive look, Li Changsheng didn't expect that Vice Principal Yang would come for him today. Yesterday, he thought that as long as Vice Principal Yang didn't provoke him, he wouldn't bother with him. Li Changsheng was already in a bad mood because of what happened with Bai Qianxue. Naturally, he wasn't interested in listening to Vice Principal Yang's nonsense. So, he directly went forward and pushed Vice Principal Yang away. Then, he strode into the meeting room and found a seat. Suddenly, Vice Principal Yang was stunned on the spot. The whispers in the meeting room stopped abruptly. Chapter 338. For the teachers of Qingzhou University, the past few days were no different from an abyss of suffering. The transfer of the former principal, Chen Ligua, caused some of his old subordinates to be suppressed by Chen Donghai recently, especially this Vice Principal Yang. As Chen Donghai's trusted aide, the first fire of the new officials' 3 fires burned vigorously. Not to mention the daily meetings. Every day, there were teachers who were punished by him for various reasons and were even forced to resign. And because of Chen Ligua's relationship, Wu Xiaowan, who came to teach at Qingzhou University, had a hard time recently. Although she was as beautiful as a flower, the new vice principal did not have the slightest bit of tenderness. Recently, several of her classes were also suspended, and her beautiful face was a bit more haggard. While she was pondering over the next few months whether she should find a way to transfer out of Qingzhou University and teach in another place, suddenly, she saw a figure barge in and then sit down not far from her. Li Changsheng. Wu Xiaowan's beautiful eyes widened. She only knew that Li Changsheng was a freshman at Qingzhou University, but she didn't know that the other party was actually a teacher. Both a student and a teacher, this operation was obviously the work of the former principal, Chen Ligua. For a moment, the first thought that came to her mind was that this Li Changsheng was finished. As Chen Ligua's trusted aide, with his double identity, the other party must kill him as an example to others. At this time, many people around whispered to each other, "Who is this person? He looks so arrogant," and so on. She looked up and saw the gloomy face of Vice Principal Yang at the door. Li Changsheng turned his head and greeted Wu Xiaowan. "Hey, what a coincidence." Who knew that Wu Xiaowan didn't pay attention to him? On the contrary, on the other side, Su Jing waved at him. Looking at Li Changsheng's leisurely appearance, many people around couldn't help but shake their heads. A teacher next to him quietly gave Li Changsheng a thumbs up. "Brother, you really have guts, daring not to give Vice Principal Yang face. Amazing." But there was a hint of schadenfreude in his eyes. Vice Principal Yang, who was standing at the door, finally reacted. His face had already turned purple. The veins on his forehead bulged. He wanted nothing more than to drag Li Changxing out and give Li Changxing 2 big slaps. However, he did not do so. First of all, he had already seen Li Changxing's information before. Li Changxing was an external combat coach hired by the school. Although Li Changxing looked very thin and weak, Vice Principal Yang was not arrogant enough to use force against a combat coach. Secondly, the most important thing was that he felt a little uncertain. Li Changxing dared to push him aside and walk into the classroom so brazenly. He didn't even pay attention to him throughout the whole process. In his opinion, Li Changxing must have something to rely on. Therefore, he took a deep breath and suppressed his anger. He walked into the meeting room again and glared at Li Changxing. Then, he started the meeting. Li Changxing was too lazy to listen to his nagging. He stuffed his ears with 2 pieces of paper and fell asleep on the table. This was an eye-opener for the surrounding teachers. They thought to themselves, "Who is this guy? Why is he so arrogant?" But most of them had a look of pity. This was just the calm before the storm. Obviously, with Vice Principal Yang's temperament, this matter would not end so easily. Looking at Li Changxing sleeping on the table, Vice Principal Yang finally couldn't help but walk down. Many people held their breaths. The storm is coming. Someone mumbled. Wu Xiaowan was secretly looking forward to it. She knew a little about Li Changxing's identity. This Vice Principal Yang had been flaunting his power recently, which made her gnash her teeth in anger. If a conflict broke out between him and Li Changxing might lose his position as the combat team's coach because of this matter. He might even be expelled as a first-year student. But this Vice Principal Yang would definitely not have a good ending. On the other side, Su Jing's heart was in her mouth. She knew Li Changxing's strength. If he got angry on the spot, he would beat this Vice Principal Yang until he had to lie in the hospital for half a year. Most of the people around looked like they were watching a good show, but they were not optimistic about Li Changxing. After all, Vice Principal Yang's position was there. Just as Vice Principal Yang was about to walk to Li Changxing's side, the phone in his pocket suddenly rang. As soon as the phone rang, Vice Principal Yang's anger dissipated by half. He became much more clear-headed. Revenge was a dish best served cold. This Li Changxing was so arrogant. He might have a strong background. There was no need to provoke him now. Thinking of this, Vice Principal Yang let out a long sigh. Then he finally said in a cold voice, "Today's meeting ends here." After that, he hurried out of the meeting room to answer the phone. At this time, a female teacher next to Wu Xiaowan said, "This Coach Li is really a temperamental person. He first pushed Vice Principal Yang when he entered the door, and now he is sleeping in the meeting. Vice Principal Yang's lungs are about to explode. But he probably doesn't know the power of Vice Principal Yang. He still thinks it's President Shun. I'm afraid it won't be long before disaster comes." Wu Xiaowan next to her shook her head. "It's not that bad. This Li Changxing's identity is not ordinary. It's not that easy for Vice Principal Yang to deal with him. Why didn't I see it?" The female teacher curled her lips. How can there be a person with an extraordinary identity wearing clothes from a street stall? Ms. Wu, I see that you know him in advance. Don't be fooled by his flowery words. This female teacher had a good relationship with Wu Xiaowan. Otherwise, they would not be sitting next to each other. By the way, Xiaowan, I have a classmate who returned from abroad. He is now a manager in a multinational company. I showed him your photo, and he insisted on inviting you out for a meal. Do you have time in the next few days? Let's talk about it later." Wu Xiaowan casually prevaricated, then got up and walked out of the conference room. This Wu Xiaowan was also a very proud girl. A few days ago, she took the initiative to chase Li Changxing. However, Li Changxing was indifferent to her, which made her quite resentful. Now that he said he was returning from abroad and introduced to her as a boyfriend, she didn't like him. She, Wu Xiaowan, wanted to find a boyfriend who was better than Li Changxing. Seeing Wu Xiaowan leave, the female teacher couldn't help but be a little unhappy. She turned her head and looked at Li Changxing a few times. I don't know what's wrong with this Wu Xiaowan. She actually took a fancy to such an ordinary guy. How can this guy compare with the overseas returnee I introduced to her? At the end of the meeting, Su Jing went to wake up Li Changxing. At this time, there were still many people in the conference room who didn't leave. Seeing Li Changxing get up, someone joked, "Old man, you are really a warrior. If it weren't for Vice President Yang's sudden phone call, I'm afraid you would have been killed as an example to others." When other teachers passed by Li Changxing, they also looked at him strangely. When almost everyone left, Su Jing said, "Li Changxing, you shouldn't have gone against Vice President Yang." "It's okay." Li Changxing smiled, stretched, and walked out of the classroom. But Su Jing couldn't help but sigh. She knew that Li Changxing had a lot of power, but this was a university. It was not a place where outside forces could intervene. Chapter 339. It was said that there was a meeting in the afternoon, but Li Changxing did not plan to attend any Bulsh Asterisk team meeting. He would just follow the script and say a bunch of useless words. And that Vice Principal Yang, Li Changxing, did not like him. If the other party wanted to make an example out of him, Li Changxing did not mind letting him wake up. When he returned to the dormitory, Jiang Tao and the others were not there. These guys completely treated the university as a resort and did not attend any serious classes in the whole semester. The phone rang, and when he picked it up, it was by Qin Xue. The other end of the phone was silent for a long time. Just when Li Changxing was about to hang up, the other party spoke hesitantly. "Changxing, you misunderstood what happened that day. It's not." Hearing by Qin Xue's words, it was obvious that she was a bit haggard. Li Changxing could not help but feel his heart soften. But then, it made him angry again. "He wants to see you." "Which him? That guy?" Li Changxing's voice instantly turned cold. As if she had already guessed that Li Changxing would have such a reaction, the other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds. Then, there was a sound. "Okay, when? What's the location?" Li Changxing took a deep breath. He did not expect that his heart would be so easily affected. "Yehua Hotel, in an hour." After Bai Qinxue finished, she wanted to say something else, but Li Changxing had already hung up. An hour later, Li Changxing took a taxi to Yehua Hotel. He saw that Bai Qinxue and the guy had already arrived. Seeing Li Changxing come in, Bai Qinxue hurried over. "Changxing," she wanted to say something, but Li Changxing did not pay attention to her. Instead, he walked directly to the table and sat down. Today, Li Changxing wore a casual sportswear, which cost more than 3,000 yuan, and they were all branded. However, the guy looked at Li Changxing and curled his lips in disdain. Those who could afford to wear branded clothes could only be considered to be from a well-off family, and the real rich people's clothes were all custom-made. For example, his suit was worth more than 300,000 yuan. People who drove Porsches naturally looked down on people who drove Xiaoli. At this moment, the other party felt a sense of superiority. Bai Qinxue sat down with a complicated expression on her face. She sat in the middle, the same distance between the two of them. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Wang Su, the eldest son of Beijing's Wang family. I'm the general manager and CEO of Hung Guang Corporation, as well as the COO." The other party extended his hand to Li Changxing. He was very gentlemanly and courteous. Li Changxing had no intention of shaking hands with him. Obviously, they hated each other so much that their teeth itched. In Li Changxing's opinion, there was no need to put on a show. Seeing that Li Changxing wasn't cooperating, Wang Su didn't show any anger on his face. Instead, he became even more confident. In such a situation, Wang Su seemed to have grasped the initiative. The other party's words and actions were incomparable to his own. Initially, Wang Su had felt that the man whom Bai Qinxue had taken a fancy to was very impressive. Therefore, he had made a lot of preparations before coming here, intending to fight a tough battle. Now, he was completely at ease. It seemed that Bai Qinxue's temperament could not be compared to his. He believed that Bai Qinxue would know what to choose. "Let's order." Wang Su snapped his fingers, and the waiter brought the menu over. However, he didn't order. Instead, he placed the menu in front of Li Changxing. "You're the guest today. You'll be the one ordering." "All right, then." Li Changxing happened to be feeling a little hungry and didn't stand on ceremony. He ordered a few home-cooked dishes. When Wang Su saw this scene, he couldn't help but sneer. In his opinion, the dishes Li Changxing ordered didn't have any other characteristics other than having a lot of meat. What the poor ate was the quantity, while what the rich ate was the taste. One could tell a person's status in society just from the way they ordered. This was especially so since Li Changsheng had only ordered Chinese-style dishes. He didn't order any of the Western-style dishes. The food here is expensive. You don't have to save money for me. Wang Su pointed to the Western-style dishes. However, Li Changsheng shook his head. I don't know English. Wang Su almost burst out laughing. What kind of society was this? The other party was a university student, yet he didn't know English. Which village did this bumpkin come from? At this instant, Wang Su's heart was at ease. So, his love rival was a country bumpkin. To think that he had acted as if he was facing a great enemy. He had really thought too highly of Sun Mo by Qin Shue had a complicated expression on her face. She believed that Li Changsheng must have done this in a fit of pique. However, when Li Changsheng and Wang Su sat together, Li Changsheng was really too ordinary. In the past, Li Changsheng's abilities and background could give Li Changsheng additional points. However, when he was compared to Wang Su, who had a stronger background, that layer of halo was stripped away. He really seems to be inferior to Wang Su. Bai Qinxue thought to herself. Speak, why did you call me out? Li Changsheng took in Bai Qinshue's expression and couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. His voice also turned extremely cold. Actually, Changsheng. Just when Bai Qinshu wanted to say something, Wang Su spoke first. It's very simple. I like Bai Qinshu and want to compete with you fairly. There's actually nothing to compete with. Li Changsheng looked toward Bai Qinshu. Love has always been mutual. Between the two of us, have you thought about who you want to choose? Bai Qinshu immediately revealed a pained expression. Changsheng, you're very outstanding. But can you please give me some time to think about it? Bai Qinshu really didn't know who she should choose. Li Changsheng was a benefactor to the Bai clan, especially to her. However, when Wang Su appeared in her world, she started to feel conflicted. You don't have to think about it. I think young Master Wang is quite good. Choosing him is much better than choosing me, Li Changsheng said. Instantly, the place sank into silence. At this moment, Li Changsheng wiped his hands and stood up. He pointed to the two cold dishes that had just been served and said, I suddenly feel a little nauseous. Therefore, I won't be accompanying you guys to eat. He then turned and left in a carefree manner. There was a hint of the wind blowing and the water turning cold. Just like the two cold dishes that had just been served, this meal had already turned cold before it could be eaten. Bai Qinshu looked at Li Changsheng's departing back view. She stood up and wanted to chase after him, but Wang Su held her hand. Qinshu, he doesn't really like you. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given up so easily. Why do you have to chase after him? Hearing Wang Su's words, Bai Qinshu sat back down dejectedly. She thought to herself, that's right. If Li Changsheng cares about me as much as Wang Su does, he should fight with all his might. However, he left so easily. This means that he doesn't love me at all. Forget it. Since that's the case, let's end it like this. Thinking of this, Bai Qinshu took a deep breath and used a tissue to wipe her reddened eyes. She then called out to the waiter, bring me a bottle of red wine. In that instant, Wang Su's eyes gleamed. He knew that his chance had come. Chapter 340. Li Changsheng's mood was a bit down as he returned to the dormitory alone. He saw that Zhang Tao and the others had returned and were engrossed in playing games. Seeing Li Changsheng coming in, Zhang Tao threw down his phone and looked up at Li Changsheng. Yo, Changsheng, didn't you say you were going to see your girlfriend? Why are you back so early? People say that meeting with the Golden Phoenix is better than meeting countless people. You guys haven't seen each other for almost half a year. Didn't you think of doing anything? Li Changsheng couldn't help but roll his eyes at Zhang Tao. This guy was said to have sex with Su Ying less than 2 hours after knowing her. He had been talking about it and was proud of it. He criticized Li Changsheng's behavior of not pushing down so many beautiful women around him. Don't compare me with you. Li Changsheng rolled his eyes at Zhang Tao. At this time, Yang Fan cursed, F***, Jiang Tao, can't you finish a game before chatting? You're going to lose your rank again. Yeah, Zhang Xiaofeng echoed. Just when they were quarreling because they lost another game, there was a knock on the dormitory door. Come in, Jiang Tao shouted. The door opened, and a middle-aged man wearing glasses walked in. Everyone was puzzled. The man smiled and introduced himself. My name is Lei Ming, a teacher of the school. After the introduction, the few of them immediately stood up. Zhang Xiaofeng thought for a while and screamed. I remember now. The director Lei, who was in charge of sports? Zhang Xiaofeng was on the school's basketball team, so he had some impression of Lei Ming. He didn't react just now, but suddenly remembered. You're actually a director. Jiang Tao and the others immediately became respectful. No matter if it was a rich second generation like Jiang Tao or an ordinary student like Yang Fan or Zhang Xiaofeng, they were still under the supervision of a teacher in the school. That's me. Lei Ming smiled, and then his gaze fell on Li Changsheng. This is Li Changsheng, right? Speaking of which, you're the coach of the fighting team and my subordinate in name. Hello, Director Lei. Li Changsheng nodded. Indeed, the other party was in charge of sports, and the combat team was also under his jurisdiction. Li Changsheng, I'm here on Vice Principal Yang's orders. As soon as the other party spoke, Li Changsheng's expression immediately turned cold. He didn't expect that Vice Principal Yang couldn't wait to make a move on him. Seeing the coldness on Li Changsheng's face, Lei Ming smiled awkwardly. However, he still said, Coach Li, you didn't give face to Vice President Yang in the meeting room today, which made him very angry. I'm here to understand the situation. After all, you are technically my subordinate. Jiang Tao and the other two were confused as they listened. Lei Ming told them about how Li Changsheng had pushed Vice Principal Yang aside and how he had fallen asleep during the meeting. The three of them looked at Li Changsheng with eyes full of worship. One had to know that Vice Principal Yang was known for his ruthless methods ever since he took office. He was known as the King of Hell. Li Changsheng dared to not give him any face. No wonder the three of them had such expressions. Understand the situation? I'm afraid he's here to test my background. Although Li Changsheng didn't like scheming, he had lived for so long and had seen everything. How could he not see Vice Principal Yang's intentions? The reason why he didn't get angry on the spot at the meeting was that he didn't know Li Changsheng's background. Now, he sent Director Lei just to figure out and decide on a countermeasure against Li Changsheng. Director Lei smiled awkwardly. After he heard about Li Changsheng, he only thought of Li Changsheng as a hothead. He didn't expect Li Changsheng to be far more shrewd than he thought. You don't have to test me. Just go back and tell Vice Principal Yang that I don't have much of a background. If he wants to touch me, he can do it. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Lei Ming's heart lost confidence. Generally, people with no background would say that they have a great background to scare others, while people with real ability would disdain to show off. Therefore, when Li Changsheng said that, Lei Ming felt that Li Changsheng was unfathomable. Student Li, there's no such thing. I'm just here to understand the reason. Lei Ming smiled and took out a cigarette to hand to Li Changsheng. However, he found that there was only one cigarette left in the box and couldn't help but feel embarrassed. At this time, Jiang Tao hurriedly took out a few cigarettes from a pack of Chunghua and handed them to Lei Ming, Li Changsheng, and the others. This made Lei Ming slightly surprised, because it was already good for college students to smoke cigarettes that cost 10 or 20 yuan, and there were not many who could afford to smoke Chunghua. Therefore, he had a few more guesses about Li Changsheng's identity. Student Li, the dormitory's welfare is pretty good. Lei Ming lit a cigarette by himself. Li Changsheng knew that the other party misunderstood and said with a smile, This is all thanks to Jiang Tao. All the cigarettes in the dormitory were bought by him. Director Lei looked at Jiang Tao and suddenly patted his head. I remember now. You're the rich second generation who drove a BMW to school on the first day of school, right? Lei Ming's brows wrinkled again. He was ordered by Vice President Yang to inquire about Li Changsheng's background, but it seemed that he hadn't found any useful information since he came in. Director Lei, have some tea. Zhang Xiaofeng took a few disposable cups and poured tea into everyone's cup. Lei Ming was the director in charge of sports, so Zhang Xiaofeng naturally had to curry favor with him. As a member of the school's basketball team, there were always times when he had to ask for help. Okay. Lei Ming picked up the teacup and took a sip. Suddenly, his face showed a bit of surprise. He was a southerner and had the habit of drinking tea since childhood, so he was very sensitive to the quality of the tea. As long as he took a sip, he could tell. This tea is simply the best. Lei Ming's heart couldn't calm down. As far as he knew, this kind of tea, at this level, would probably cost tens of thousands of yuan. This small dormitory could actually afford such tea. He couldn't help but look at Jiang Tao next to him in doubt. Did you also prepare this for everyone? He wasn't that surprised that Jiang Tao drove a BMW to school. After all, a BMW now was only a few 100,000 yuan. But this tea was different. Drinking one tael would cost tens of thousands. If it was really prepared by Jiang Tao, then Jiang Tao driving a BMW was low-key. Unexpectedly, Zhang Xiaofeng shook his head and said, "This is not prepared by Jiang Tao. Changsheng put it in the dormitory for everyone to drink. This tea is not a rare thing. There are several boxes under Changsheng's bed." Li Changsheng? This time, the way Lei Ming looked at Li Changsheng completely changed. Especially when he heard Zhang Xiaofeng say there were several boxes, he almost crushed the paper cup. This tea was worth tens of thousands of taels. Sure enough, daring to go against the vice president, he wasn't as simple as he looked. Chapter 341. This tea is expensive, isn't it? Lei Ming asked tentatively. Pu'er tea had a long history. It was divided into 3 categories: ancient tree tea, wild tea, and table tea. Among them, ancient tree tea was an ancient tea tree that was more than 100 years old. The tea leaves produced by this kind of tea tree were forbidden to be bought, but the price of this tea had always been high. Lei Ming was lucky enough to taste a cup from an old tea farmer a few years ago. He could not forget it since then. He did not expect to taste the same taste today. He knew that this tea could not be bought without tens of thousands of yuan. It's not much. Changsheng brought it from his home. Zhang Xiaofeng rinsed his mouth with the tea and spat it into the trash can next to him. This made Lei Ming's cheeks twitch. Such expensive tea was wasted just like that. For a moment, his heart was filled with complicated feelings. Director Lei, if you like it, let Changsheng give you a box. Anyway, there are several boxes of this tea under Changsheng's bed. Zhang Xiaofeng saw that Director Lei was interested in the tea and immediately took the initiative to pick up a box of tea and put it in Lei Ming's hand. Director Lei, just take it. It's not worth much anyway. It's not worth much? Lei Ming smiled bitterly. He thought, these guys are really demoralizing. I was able to drink a cup back then because of a big shot. Now, they don't take it seriously at all. Lei Ming liked tea very much, but he also knew that the tea was expensive. This box was almost equivalent to his annual salary. Mr. Lei, just take it. Li Changsheng naturally saw that Lei Ming recognized the value of the tea. In fact, even he did not know how much the tea was worth. It was all sent by Su Xiaolin last time. However, with Su Xiaolin's style, he would definitely not send something cheap. He was a nouveau riche who only knew one truth. Expensive was good. Okay. Lei Ming put the tea away. He actually wanted to refuse, but such a rare good tea was really fatal for a tea lover. It seems that Coach Li's background is really scary. Otherwise, he would not give such expensive tea to everyone in the dormitory. In an instant, Li Changsheng's position in Lei Ming's heart rose rapidly. He knew how he should report this to Vice Principal Yang. As the saying goes, the mouth of the one who eats the food is short, and the hands of the one who takes it are soft. The way they looked at Li Changsheng was different. Coach Li, that Vice Principal Yang has indeed gone overboard recently, but you humiliated him in public, which is not good. I will put in a few good words for him when I go back, and I believe he will forgive you. Lei Ming patted his chest and promised. Indeed, even Vice Principal Yang wouldn't dare to go against Li Changsheng if he knew about Li Changsheng's power. By the way, Coach Li, a few teachers have resigned from the school committee recently. Are you interested in joining them? Once you join the school committee, you'll have a say in the school. Lei Ming asked. Li Changsheng was slightly surprised. He once heard from Su Jing that if one wanted to enter the school committee, not only did they need to have qualifications and prestige, but they also needed to have connections. At Qingzhou University, many teachers wanted to join the school committee by using their connections, but only a few were able to do so. I didn't expect that, as an external teacher, I would have the opportunity to join the school committee. It seems that this box of tea is really useful. After Lei Ming voiced his thoughts, he quietly looked at Li Changsheng. In his opinion, Li Changsheng had no reason to refuse. Joining the Alumni Association would immediately change his status. He did not do it for the box of tea, but because he wanted a rope in Li Changsheng, to be able to place boxes of tea worth tens of thousands of taels under the bed. This kind of connection was hard to find. No, I'm used to being lazy, so I won't join the school committee, Li Changsheng said. Lei Ming was really surprised. Everyone tried their best to join the school committee, but Li Changsheng refused the opportunity that came to him. Having seen too many teachers who wanted to use his connections to join the school committee, Lei Ming could not think of any reason why Li Changsheng would refuse. But at this moment, the other party did refuse, which made his face a little ugly, and he felt embarrassed. But touching the tea in his pocket, he thought of Li Changsheng's mysteriousness and could not help but suppress his displeasure. Maybe he really did not care about the school committee status. Lei Ming was about to say a few more polite words, but suddenly the phone in his pocket rang. Hello? Okay, I understand. After picking up the phone, Lei Ming's face could not help but smile. Coach Li, it will be Christmas in a few days. After Christmas, it will be New Year's Day. The school will hold a large-scale 2-day party. Just now, the leader called and asked us to come up with a few sports programs. Do you think your combat team can come up with a martial arts program? Hearing the other party's words, Li Changsheng thought for a while, then nodded. That's fine. I'll discuss it with my students. Originally, Li Changsheng was not interested in this type of performance. But even if he was not interested, it did not mean that Wang Dongsheng and the others were not interested, so Li Changsheng did not refuse. Performing on stage may not have any substantial rewards, but it is one of the many unforgettable memories of youth. Seeing that Li Changsheng did not refuse him this time, Lei Ming's face showed a smile. Lei Ming patted Li Changsheng's shoulder and said, "Then I'll leave first. Remember to think of a program to rehearse and let me know." After Lei Ming left, Zhang Xiaofeng carefully asked, "Li Changsheng, is your tea very special? Why do I feel that after Director Lei took the tea, his attitude changed?" "It's nothing special, don't think too much." Li Changsheng smiled, then called Su Jing and told her about the program at the Christmas party. Su Jing said that Wang Dongsheng and the others were training. So Li Changsheng left the dormitory and went straight to the combat room. After Li Changsheng left, Jiang Tao opened his mouth and said, "Zhang Xiaofeng, in fact, I haven't told you. Last time I went back and checked the value of the tea under Changsheng's bed. 1 tael is tens of thousands, and that box is worth 3 taels. Isn't that more than 100,000? Zhang Xiaofeng was so scared that his hands trembled. He actually took Li Changsheng's tea that was worth more than 100,000 and gave it to others for free. That's why we should drink the tea leaves ourselves. We shouldn't give them away without Changsheng's permission. Changsheng treats us as his brothers. That's why he would let us waste such good tea leaves. Although Changsheng doesn't lack money, we can't waste his money." Hearing Jiang Tao's words, Zhang Xiaofeng nodded. Thinking of how he used the tea to rinse his mouth, he felt his heart bleeding. What a waste of natural resources. Chapter 342. In the sparring room. When Li Changsheng appeared, Jin Wenwen, Wang Dongsheng, and the others all gathered around him. They showed great interest in a martial arts performance at the birthday party. They finally decided to perform some actual martial arts, such as breaking wood with their fists, breaking bricks, and so on. After all, Wang Dongsheng and the others were good at fighting, not martial arts performances. If they performed real martial arts on stage, they probably wouldn't be popular. Because there was a saying in Chinese martial arts, "Kill, don't perform." After all, killing techniques weren't that beautiful. After finalizing the content of the performance, Li Changsheng let them rehearse on their own. Of course, as the coach, he wasn't interested in performing himself. The reason he agreed to Lei Ming's request was because he considered Wang Dongsheng and the others' thoughts. After leaving the sparring room, Li Changsheng strolled toward Green Vine High School. Now, other than his dorm and cultivation, the only thing he could think of was to find Yu Wei. Compared to Yu Wei's gentleness and understanding, Bai Qinxue seemed to be the warmest part of Li Changsheng. Green Vine High School wasn't close to Qingzhou University, where Li Changsheng studied. Along the way, he had to pass through streets of various sizes that crisscrossed with each other. In particular, there were some old streets that maintained an ancient style. They were narrow, long, and full of twists and turns. Once he got lost in them, it was like a maze. Only those who lived here often wouldn't get lost. Of course, with Li Changsheng's terrifying memory, he could also do it with ease. In an old neighborhood a few miles away from Green Vine High School, Li Changsheng had just passed through a quiet alley when he saw a few teenagers with sticks in their hands viciously beating a man on the ground. The square leg of the stool had distinct edges and corners. Every time it smashed down, the man on the ground would let out a scream. Although the teenagers only hit the thicker parts of the body and didn't dare to hit the head, every time the stick fell, it was still extremely cruel. Especially the teenager on the ground who was holding his head, curled up like a shrimp. Li Changsheng felt some sympathy for him. If it was a normal fight like this, Li Changsheng wouldn't have cared. But the boy who fell was only about 15 or 16 years old. In the end, Li Changsheng stopped. He didn't directly rush over to take down the youths who were beating them up. Instead, he looked around. Seeing a few wine bottles placed by the wall, he picked one up and smashed it on the stone under his feet. At this moment, the youths were having a good time fighting. "Brat, aren't you very stubborn? If I can't beat you to death, then show me how awesome you are. Don't you know who I am?" The young man cursed as he slapped her. Youths at this age were the most unrestrained in their attacks. They didn't realize that if this continued and they made a mistake, the young man who was being beaten might also be beaten to death by them. At this moment, a crashing sound was heard. The sound of the glass bottle shattering was like a thunderbolt on a sunny day. This caused a few youths who had already sunk into madness to suddenly wake up. Almost at the same time, they stopped what they were doing and looked in the direction of the sound. When Li Changsheng saw the effect of the broken glass bottle, he immediately turned around and shouted, "Police uncles, it's here. Come quickly. Don't let them run away." When these words came out, the youths' faces turned pale with fright. In the next moment, a sound came from the other side of the alley. "Kacha! Kacha!" Chaotic footsteps sounded. Immediately, the youths hurriedly threw away the sticks in their hands and ran to the other side. "Stop! Don't run!" Li Changsheng pretended to shout. The youths immediately ran faster. In a few minutes, they disappeared at the end of the alley. At this time, the young man who was holding his head struggled to get up from the ground. His face was bruised and swollen. His body was densely covered with footprints. He grimaced. Obviously, he was in great pain. Leaning against the wall, he looked at Li Changsheng in confusion. After waiting for a long time, he didn't see the so-called police appear. Then he asked in confusion, "Where's the police? Where's the police? I just learned some ventriloquism to scare them." Li Changsheng smiled faintly. The young man suddenly understood. He touched his pocket, took out a pack of cigarettes, and handed one to Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng waved his hand. "Why, you don't smoke?" Seeing Li Changsheng refuse, the young man lit up for himself, took a puff, and then leaned against the wall. Obviously, the beating just now hurt him badly, but the young man's body was strong. As long as he wasn't hit in the vital parts, this injury would be completely healed in 2 days. Damn, these bastards are blocking me here. If it's a one-on-one, none of them is my opponent, the young man said with hatred. Then he looked at Li Changsheng. "Brother, thank you. If you need me in the future, just let me know." The young man cupped his hands. He was young, but he acted like a man of the martial arts world. But in Li Changsheng's eyes, it was a bit out of place. He couldn't help but shake his head. It seemed that he was also a delinquent. "The injury on your body shouldn't be a big problem. Go back and rest for 2 days. but don't cause trouble in the future. If I didn't pass by just now and accidentally hit your head, you'd be finished. And you'd better go home now to take a shower and change into clean clothes. Otherwise, your parents will be worried. Who knew that before Li Changsheng finished his words? The young man's face showed a bit of a ferocious look and said coldly, "Who the hell are you? Don't think that just because you did me a favor, you can point fingers at me. If you say more, do you believe that I won't beat you?" He stared at him with a fierce look. Li Changsheng couldn't help but shake his head. He knew that the young man was beaten for a reason. He was a delinquent, but he wouldn't argue with a child. He shook his head, didn't say anything, and turned to leave. The young man wanted to continue his outburst, but when he saw that Li Changsheng only left him with a back view, he couldn't help but feel like he had punched cotton. In the end, he spat on the ground and cursed, "Idiot." There were always some people in the world who didn't know what was good for them. They misunderstood the kindness of others as evil, as if the whole world owed them. It couldn't be said that the young man was a bad child. At this moment, he was in the process of developing his mind and gradually maturing. Perhaps many years later, when he looked back on today's scene, he would regret his attitude toward Li Changsheng. Or perhaps many years later, he would tell others that he met a fool who thought that by helping him a little, he could teach him a lesson. Either way, Li Changsheng didn't care. Walking to the entrance of Greenvine High School, Li Changsheng sent a text message to Yu Yue and waited patiently for Yu Yue. A taxi stopped not far away from him, and a middle-aged man walked out. When he and Li Changsheng looked at each other, both of their faces showed surprise. It turned out to be the driver who drove Li Changsheng to the airport that day, and later had a barbecue with Li Changsheng. "What's the matter, young man? What a coincidence." "Yeah." Li Changsheng also smiled. The driver came over and handed Li Changsheng a cigarette. "What's the matter? You've walked out of the shadow of your breakup? You seem to be in a good mood. Remember what I told you, there are plenty of fish in the sea. By the way, there are many girls in Greenvine High School. They're about the same age as you. I saw a girl the other day. I heard that many people are waiting at the entrance of Greenvine High School to take pictures of that girl after school. You're not here to take pictures of that girl, are you? By the way, I think that girl's name is something Wei." The other party was very talkative. Hearing his words, Li Changsheng smiled. He thought that the girl the other party was talking about must be Yu Yue. Yu Yue sent him a text a few days ago, saying that ever since her title as the campus belle of Greenvine High School was put up on the internet, a group of people would come over every day to take videos and post them on apps like Kuaishou and TikTok to gain popularity. This made her very annoyed. Chapter 343. Sure enough, the closer it was to the end of school, the more cars at the school gate. Several of them had words such as Kuitu and TikTok pasted on the back window. One of them was even more shameless. It directly pasted Yu You's face on the window. These people were holding camera equipment in their hands. Some were holding mobile phones, some were holding cameras, and they were all waiting. They were all here to see that girl. Su Hong, the big brother of the taxi, shook his head. People nowadays are almost obsessed with fame. They don't consider that watching every day will affect the girl's normal life. By the way, little brother, what are you doing here? After eating barbecue and drinking with Li Changsheng last time, the relationship between the two was much closer. He handed Li Changsheng a cigarette, and the two leaned against the car to smoke. The school bell had already rung to signal the end of class. "I'm here to see the school bell you mentioned." Li Changsheng smiled slightly. Su Hong's mouth opened slightly. He was obviously a little surprised and smiled bitterly. "I was right. Don't tell me you also want to shoot a video and then accumulate popularity on the app? It's not that I want to criticize you, but young people should be more down to earth. Otherwise, it's not a good thing to think about making money all day long." "Brother Su, don't worry." Li Changsheng smiled slightly. "The girl you mentioned is my girlfriend." "What? You said that the school bell is your girlfriend?" Su Hong was a little shocked. As soon as he shouted, the surrounding people who were taking photos in groups suddenly focused their eyes. When they saw Li Changsheng's appearance, their faces showed disdain. At this time, Su Hong reacted and smiled bitterly. "Brother, I'm sorry. You really know how to joke with your brother. You were just dumped by your girlfriend. How can you find a new girlfriend so quickly? Seeming to realize that the word dumped was not very nice, Su Hong laughed twice and continued. Moreover, I heard that the girl is not only the school belle, but also the first in the school. It's not that I look down on you, but with your appearance, it's really hard to match her. The people next to him also curled their lips. They didn't know Li Changsheng, so they couldn't say anything. However, Li Changsheng clearly heard someone muttering, bragging without thinking, a toad lusting after a swan's meat, and so on. Li Changsheng did not say anything else. Instead, he took the initiative to change the topic. By the way, Brother Su, did you drive a taxi here to pick someone up? Many parents would hire a fixed taxi to pick up their children. These taxi drivers would run the business during the day and only send the students home after school. A fixed amount of money every month was a stable income for the taxi drivers. For those families, picking up their children in this way was far safer than letting their children take the bus or take a taxi. No, I'm here to pick up my son. My son is in his 3rd year of high school, but he's a troublemaker. He causes me trouble every day. These few days, I've personally driven over to pick him up so that he won't fool around outside. I see. Li Changxing nodded. Thinking back to when he saw the group of delinquents fighting before he arrived, he sighed in his heart. Children nowadays really don't let their parents have peace of mind. Not long after the bell rang, a group of students rushed out. These people had been cooped up in school for the whole day. After class, they couldn't wait to grow wings and fly home. The school gate opened, and a large group of students rushed out of the school gate and onto the street. Those who were waiting to shoot jokes all widened their eyes and searched in the crowd. Half an hour later, the people in front of the school gate were almost gone, but they didn't see Yu Yuwei's figure. Just as Li Changsheng was about to send a text message to Yu Yuwei, he saw a girl in a white dress slowly walk out like a lotus flower emerging from the water. At this moment, countless eyes were focused on her. The group of people who were ready to shoot jokes all turned on their phones. Su Hong, who was next to him, also suddenly widened his eyes. Looking at the girl walking out of the school, he seemed to recall the girl he had a crush on in his youth. At this moment, everyone at the school gate, whether it was the people who were taking photos or the scattered students who were walking out, their gazes involuntarily fell on that pretty figure. At this moment, the whole world seemed to quiet down, especially the sweet smile on the girl's face, which was as warm and dazzling as the sun. After all, Su Hong was a man with a lot of experience, so he quickly reacted. He glanced at the stunned crowd and couldn't help but laugh. At the same time, he teased Li Changsheng, who was next to him. How is it, little brother? If you knew this girl was so beautiful, would you still dare to say that she was your girlfriend? The person who walked out was naturally Yu Yuwei, the #1 school beauty of Greenvine Middle School. Li Changsheng patted Su Hong's shoulder and then walked over to Yu Yuwei. What's going on? A few of the people who were taking short videos also reacted. Yu Yuwei didn't like being photographed by people. She had complained to the school. At the school gate, they didn't dare to get too close. The guards would immediately come out and cause trouble for them. These people were lazy and didn't have much power in their families, so they didn't dare to offend the guards. Therefore, in the past few days, they usually waited for Yu Yuwei to walk across the road before they surrounded her. At this moment, when they saw Li Changsheng walking over, they suddenly sneered. This kid is new, right? If he walks over like this, the guard dogs will eat him up. He just said that Yu Yuwei was his girlfriend. Why don't he take a piss and look at himself in the mirror? Haha, she's probably his girlfriend in his dreams. A few people who often came to take photos had become familiar with each other. When they saw Li Changsheng walking forward, they sneered. Hey, little brother, don't mess around. Su Hong hurriedly reminded him. In the past few days, when he came to pick up his son, he had heard some things. He knew that the guards were not to be trifled with. However, at this time, Li Changsheng was already halfway out. Yu Yuwei walked with her head down. As she walked, she scrolled through her messages in WeChat. She couldn't help but pout and feel a little disappointed when she didn't see the message she wanted to see. There's so many beauties in the university. You've almost forgotten about me. She felt a little wronged because he was the person she thought about every day. Checking her WeChat a few times every day had almost become her obsession. However, she hadn't received any greetings from Li Changsheng for the past few days. When Li Changsheng was approaching, the burly guard at the gate also noticed this scene. Just as he stood up from his chair, he was pulled back by the old man beside him. "That boy is Yu Yue's friend. Don't worry about him." For a period of time, Li Changxing often came to see Yu Yue. Almost everyone in Greenvine High School knew that Yu Yue was taken. The old man at the gate was one of the few people who remembered Li Changxing's face. When he was 5 steps away from Yu Yue felt someone approaching. She thought it was one of those annoying photographers, but the moment she raised her head, she saw the face she had been missing for a long time. Li Changsheng stopped in his tracks. Under everyone's gaze, he opened his mouth and revealed a bright smile. Then, he opened his arms and made a hugging gesture. The surroundings suddenly fell into silence. The people who had mocked Li Changsheng at that time also widened their eyes. This kid actually wants to hug Yu Yue, the school beauty. His skin is too thick. The security guards will beat him flat when they come. Huh? Where are the security guards at the gate? The driver, Su Hong, who was sitting on the hood of the taxi, didn't even notice that the cigarette had burned to his fingers. He only gave Li Changsheng a thumbs up in his heart. He thought to himself, "I didn't realize this little brother was so reckless when I was drinking that day." However, Su Hong quickly felt a burning pain in his fingers. He hurriedly threw the cigarette holder on the ground and blew on his yellowed fingers. After the pain subsided, he raised his head again and saw Yu Yue fly into Li Changsheng's arms like a butterfly. Li Changsheng hugged her tightly. At that moment, Su Hong felt as though he had been struck by lightning. Some people around them couldn't even hold their phones tightly and dropped them on the ground. Chapter 344. Everyone in the room was petrified. The pure campus belle, who had recently become a hot topic on various apps and online platforms, had already been taken. The people who had mocked Li Changsheng in a low voice at that time felt their minds go blank. F***CK, they blurted out in disbelief. They couldn't believe it. This was because Li Changsheng's appearance was truly too ordinary. Who would have thought that a youth with an ordinary appearance that wouldn't even attract a second glance in a crowd would be so lucky as to pluck such a delicate and beautiful flower? Beside the taxi, the driver, Su Hong, gave Li Changsheng a thumbs up. He still remembered the frustration on Li Changsheng's face when he returned to the taxi from the airport. He didn't expect to get such a beautiful girlfriend in the blink of an eye. If the woman who abandoned him saw this scene, I wonder what she would think. For a moment, Su Hong had a little expectation in his heart. At that time, when he drank with Li Changsheng, he just felt that Li Changsheng was a pitiful person, an ordinary college student. Now, he was a little curious about Li Changsheng, because when he left after eating barbecue, Li Changsheng left him his phone number and said that he could call him if he needed anything. At that time, Su Hong didn't think much of it. Until now, he suddenly wondered if this ordinary-looking young man had some special identity. After all, in today's materialistic world, the level of a man's woman also represented the man's reputation and status. After all, the story of the weaver and the cowherd, the master and the coachman, was very rare even in thousands of years of history. Moreover, even if he was once a worthless coachman, didn't he later grow up to be a great general admired by the world, a great hero whose name would go down in history? There must be something extraordinary about him that I didn't realize. Su Hong thought so. At this moment, the people who dropped their phones on the ground finally reacted. Looking at the broken screen, they wanted to cry, but had no tears. And those who didn't drop their phones on the ground frantically took pictures of Li Changsheng and Yu Yue. It was like a big star in a movie going out. Li Changsheng did not stop them. Although these people had caused a lot of trouble for Yu Yue, if one thought about it carefully, it was all for the sake of making a living. Su Hong opened the car door in time. Li Changsheng and Yu Yue got in. Many people continued to surround them. At this moment, Su Hong roared, "That's enough. Don't go overboard." Su Hong was tall and burly, and when he glared, he looked quite imposing. At this time, The door opened, and the sturdy security guard walked out. Thus, the unwilling reporters could only leave reluctantly. Su Hong sat in the car and turned his head. He looked at Li Changsheng and Yu Wei thoughtfully. Li Changsheng smiled. Yu Wei, on the other hand, blushed slightly. People say that shyness is the most beautiful. At this moment, Yu Wei is the most beautiful. Brother Su, your son hasn't come out yet? It's been more than 40 minutes since school ended. The students who should have come out have already come out. Su Hong took out his phone and made a call, but no one picked up. At this moment, a female teacher walked out. Su Hong hurriedly opened the car door and asked, "Teacher Yang, why didn't my son, Su Xiaoping, come out?" When the teacher surnamed Yang saw Su Hong, her eyes were cold. "That son of yours, I haven't seen him since this afternoon. He skipped class again. As a parent, you should discipline him well. He's too much." After saying that, she did not look at Su Hong anymore. She walked to the side of the road and stopped the car. At the same time, her eyes were filled with anger. That son of his was too worrisome. Seeing this scene, Li Changsheng shook his head. This teacher's impatient look made him feel slightly displeased. Even if her son was not motivated, as a teacher, did she not have any responsibility? Su Hong sat in the car dejectedly and sighed. After a full 3 minutes of silence, he raised his head and asked, "Little brother, where are you going? I'll send you back." "There's no need." Li Changsheng saw that the people who were filming outside had left and was about to get out of the car. "Brother Li, you're being too polite with your brother again. My son isn't here. I'll send you back." After saying that, he started the car without any explanation, turned around, and walked towards the road. Therefore, Li Changsheng did not insist. He let him drive him and Yu Wei to the city square. Li Changsheng and Yu Wei had not seen each other for a long time. It was inevitable that they felt like they had been apart for 3 years. The two strolled until 8 o'clock in the evening. Li Changsheng sent Yu Wei home. Yu Wei's father, Yu Baoguo, just finished eating and came out for a walk. When he saw Li Changsheng, he warmly asked Li Changsheng to come in and sit. It was a world of difference from his attitude when he saw Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng said that he had something to do. He waited until the father and daughter entered the house before he left. Just as he stopped the taxi on the side of the road, he received a call from Su Hong. Su Hong said that his son was beaten. He was in a panic and wanted to find someone to drink some wine. Li Changsheng did not say anything. He directly asked the driver to drive to the place where they had barbecue last time. Su Hong's friend, who was also the owner of the barbecue stall, was sitting next to him. When they saw Li Changsheng coming over, they both stood up. "Little brother, I'm really sorry to ask you to come out to accompany me so late." As he said that, he poured Li Changsheng a glass of wine and told him what happened at home. The more he listened, the more familiar Li Changsheng felt. He asked, "Brother Su, is your son very thin, about 1.7 meters tall, with long hair?" "Yes." Su Hong nodded. Li Changsheng realized that the young man who was beaten in the alley was actually Su Hong's son. Su Hong seemed to have a sense of justice. He did not expect his son to be so rebellious. No wonder Su Hong was upset today. No one would be in a good mood when they saw their son being beaten like that. The owner of the barbecue stall went to work again. Su Hong drank a little too much. His eyes were red. Later, a big man of 1.8 meters fell on the table and cried with his face covered. He said that his wife left early. He only had one son. He was busy making money and did not care about him. Now he wanted to care, but it was too late. He fought with people every day. This time he was beaten like this. What if he was beaten more seriously next time? Didn't you complain to the school? The principal of Green Vine Middle School was Wu Ruowang. Li Changsheng knew him. What's the use of complaining? It's not good for the school to care about this kind of thing. Li Changsheng listened and nodded. It was indeed so. That Su Xiaoping was also a restless master. After the barbecue, Su Hong was drunk. In the end, Li Changsheng and the barbecue stall owner sent him home. But when they sent him home, they did not see Su Xiaoping's figure. It was already past 1 o'clock in the morning. He had not come home yet. Xiaoping is too rebellious and too insensible. Brother Su has to run to the taxi every day. He doesn't know how to be considerate of his father at all. the owner of the barbecue stall said hatefully. The two of them helped Su Hong to bed and then left. When they went downstairs, the owner of the barbecue stall asked, "Little brother, where do you live? I'll send you back." Li Chongqing thought that the school was closed now, so he told the owner the location of the villa. The owner of the barbecue stall stared at Li Chongqing in surprise for more than 10 seconds. Then he said in a trembling voice, "Little brother, you have hidden your strength well. Yuani Villa is a famous gathering place of rich people in Qingzhou." For a while, his attitude towards Li Chongqing changed. He sent Li Chongqing to the door. After Li Chongqing went in, he drove away. Li Chongqing did not think much. After going back, he lay down and went to sleep. However, his phone rang the next morning at the crack of dawn. He saw that it was Su Hong calling. "Hello, Brother Su. Why are you calling me so early in the morning?" Li Chongqing realized that something must have happened to Su Hong's son. Otherwise, Su Hong would not have called so urgently in the morning. Sure enough, as soon as he picked up, there came Su Hong's sobbing voice. "Little brother Chongqing, my son is in trouble." Chapter 345. When Li Chongqing arrived at Su Hong's house, the atmosphere was gloomy and gloomy. Su Hong was squatting on the steps of the door, smoking. He frowned as if he had aged more than 10 years after not seeing him for a night. The owner of the barbecue stall was also there. Seeing Li Chongqing appear, he hurried to greet him. On the sofa in the living room, Su Hong's son, Su Xiaoping, sat there in a daze with his head down and his expression unclear. "Brother Li is here." Seeing Li Chongqing, Su Hong hurriedly put out the cigarette in his hand and welcomed Li Chongqing in. "I'm going to pour tea." Su Hong was about to go to the kitchen when he was stopped by the owner of the barbecue stall. "You talk to Brother Li about the situation. I'll pour tea." "Okay." Su Hong nodded. At this time, Su Xiaoping, who was sitting there with his head down, raised his head. When he saw Li Chongqing clearly, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. But soon he lowered his head again. "Brother Su, what's going on?" Li Chongqing sat down on the sofa. Su Hong organized his words and said, "Yesterday, I was beaten up yesterday. Didn't I get beaten up at my place yesterday? I brought him to the hospital for a checkup. After confirming that he was fine, I let him go home by himself. I was in a bad mood and went to the barbecue stall to drink. You know what happened later? Who knew that this kid didn't listen to me and go home, but ran to the house of one of the students who beat him and hit him with a wooden stick. I heard that the beating was quite fierce. In the morning, the other party somehow got my phone number. He said that either 1 million yuan to solve it, or he would break one of Xiaoping's legs. I asked around. The child's father is a man of the underworld, powerful and ruthless. Since he said it, I'm afraid he will really do it." After listening to Su Hong's words, Li Chongqing suddenly understood. Offending a powerful man of the underworld, for an ordinary person like Su Hong, is almost tantamount to a disaster. 1 million. Su Hong might not even be able to take out 100,000 yuan. It was not wrong for Su Xiaoping to seek revenge from those youths after they had beaten him up. However, the other party's parents had actually asked for 1 million after their son had been beaten up. They were clearly asking for too much. With Li Chongqing's power, settling this matter was not a big deal. However, if Su Xiaoping continued like this, he might cause even more trouble. "Can I talk to Xiaoping alone?" "Yes, of course." Su Hong hurriedly nodded. The reason why he wanted to call Li Chongqing was that he was desperate for help. First of all, there was no one he could find. Secondly, the owner of the barbecue stall told him that Li Chongqing lived in a villa. He had a lot of power and might have a way. Su Hong and the barbecue stall owner went outside to smoke, leaving only Li Chongqing and Su Xiaoping in the hall. There was no absolute bad person in the world. The ancient saying, "At the beginning of man, his nature is good." In fact, it was very reasonable. Everyone was young once, and so was Li Chongqing. Everyone had to pay the price for their mistakes. Similarly, everyone should have a chance to turn over a new leaf. Li Chongqing lit a cigarette and then looked at Su Xiaoping, who was still sitting on the sofa with his head down. Su Xiaoping finally raised his head under Li Chongqing's gaze, but his eyes were a bit fierce. Obviously, He did not want Li Changsheng to intervene in his affairs. At that time, your father said that the other party wanted to meet you and your father at noon. What did you think? Li Changsheng did not intend to preach any major principles to him. In fact, few people could listen to other people's educational remarks. Moreover, Li Changsheng himself was a person who loved to fight. When he was a child, if any child provoked him, he had to beat the other party until they were convinced. Even if the child was older than him, he had to be tough. Therefore, when looking at Su Xiaoping, Li Changsheng did not despise him because the other party was a delinquent. Otherwise, he would not take the initiative to ask to talk to Su Xiaoping alone. With his power, as long as he made a phone call, there were few things in Qingzhou that could not be settled. What does it have to do with you? Su Xiaoping snorted coldly. He did not have a good impression of Li Changsheng. Although it was Li Changsheng who helped him when he was beaten today, he did not even listen to his father's words, let alone a stranger. In particular, in his opinion, Li Changsheng's behavior of leaving directly in the face of his provocative words was clearly a coward. In addition, he was in a bad mood now, so naturally, he did not have a good expression. Of course, it's my business. Didn't your father call me early in the morning to ask me to help you settle things? Li Changsheng fiercely took a puff of the cigarette. After smoking for a while, he continued, If I didn't come, would you have a way to deal with this afternoon's matter? Since you could chase to the other party's house and give him a beating, you should know that the other party's family background and wealth are not something you can match. And your father should have already told you about the other party's family status. The people in the underworld are ruthless. You think you are ruthless enough? Then let me ask you again. When you meet later, do you still dare to use this kind of attitude and give the other party's father a beating with a stick? Su Xiaoping was speechless by Li Changsheng's question. In fact, he was scared after that beating. After all, he was only a middle school student. How could he have the courage to face those truly ruthless people? Although he was scared in his heart, his mouth was not to be outdone. In particular, he did not want to be looked down upon by Li Changsheng, who he thought was a coward. He coldly snorted and said, It's none of your business. You'd better not interfere in our family's matters. The other party was a bit angry, and his eyes fiercely glared at Li Changsheng. Hee, why can't you accept that I'm right? But in fact, you seem to be brave and fierce, but you're just a coward. What did you say? Su Xiaoping suddenly stood up, grabbed the ashtray on the table, and pointed at Li Changsheng. You shut the F***CK up. Do you believe that I won't kill you with the ashtray if you say another word? However, in the next moment, only a cracking sound was heard. Li Changsheng grabbed his wrist and then kneed him. The other party hit the wall behind him as if he was riding the clouds. When he rolled down, he was stunned for a long time before he reacted. However, when he wanted to rush at Li Changsheng with red eyes, Li Changsheng suddenly raised his foot and kicked him to the ground. Then, he pointed at his nose and fiercely said, If you dare to move again, do you believe that I won't throw you down from the second floor? Facing Li Changsheng's gaze, Su Xiaoping opened his mouth, but in the end, he did not dare to say anything more. He could not understand how this cowardly guy suddenly became so powerful. However, that beast-like gaze just now made him feel what fear was in his heart. Chapter 346. What a good-for-nothing! Li Changsheng snorted coldly. Su Xiaoping gritted his teeth in anger, but he sadly found that he didn't have the courage to fight with him again. He was known for his ruthlessness in fighting in school, but Li Changsheng's attack was too direct and fierce. The two of them were not at the same level at all, so he felt that Li Changsheng was unfathomable. All right, get up. I'm not here to teach you a lesson. If you weren't Brother Su's son, I wouldn't even frown if you were cut into pieces tomorrow. Li Changsheng reached out to him. Su Xiaoping hesitated for a moment, then grabbed Li Changsheng's hand and stood up from the ground. You're seeking revenge for yourself this time. I can't say that you're wrong, but you didn't consider the consequences at all. With your family background, what you did was no different from hitting a rock with an egg. The ancients said that it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Before you do anything, you should consider whether you have the ability to take revenge. You felt good after beating the other party, But when faced with the other party's family background, you can only sit on the sofa with your head down and cry. Your father definitely can't afford 1 million. So what's the result? He won't watch as your son's leg is broken by the other party. When the time comes, he'll definitely stand up and take the blame for you. Is this the result you want? Li Changsheng was somewhat resentful of his son's failure to fight. He thought of how many people he had seen in his countless lives who were born in a poor family, but in the end, they achieved great things that everyone admired. Not only did they have the courage to resist, but they also had the courage to bear everything. But the young man in front of him was not so much courageous as reckless. The most important thing was that his parents had to pay for the mistakes he made. This was the reason why Li Changsheng was angry. Su Xiaoping lowered his head, his face filled with pain and shame. All right, I'll stop here. Think about the rest. If you have a little sense of responsibility and conscience, don't cause trouble for your father in the future. I've heard your father talk about your family. After so many years, other than not giving you the right guidance and education, he doesn't owe you anything. Li Changsheng stubbed out his cigarette and threw it into a nearby trash can. He looked at his watch and said, "It's almost time. We should set off." Then he stood up. "Wait a minute." Su Xiaoping suddenly spoke. "I heard that the other party's father is very powerful. Can you really deal with him?" When he said this, Li Changsheng saw a rare look of concern in the other party's eyes. He couldn't help but smile. "Looks like I didn't beat him up for nothing. You'll know when the time comes." After saying that, he looked at the other party's messy clothes and the bruises on his face. He smiled and said, "Go change into a clean set of clothes and put some ice on your face. I'll take you to meet this big shot in the underworld later." The door opened, and the barbecue shop owner and Su Hong walked in together. Just now, when they were outside the door, they heard the crackling sounds in the house, but they resisted the urge to come in. Su Xiaoping had already gone to his room to change his clothes, while Su Hong asked with some concern, "Brother Li, my bastard son didn't do anything to you, right?" In Su Hong's view, Li Changsheng's thin and weak body was indeed not as strong as his son's strength. Thinking of his son's appearance again, he was afraid that Li Changsheng had suffered a loss. "I'm fine." Li Changsheng smiled. After a while, Su Xiaoping, who had changed into new clothes, came out. When he saw Su Hong, he called him Dad obediently. Su Hong felt incredible. He knew best what kind of character his son was. He was very rebellious, and he hadn't shown such a well-behaved appearance for a long time. He couldn't help but cast a grateful look at Li Changsheng. He didn't know what method Li Changsheng used, but it seemed to have an enlightening effect on his son. "Brother Li, thank you," Su Hong said sincerely. At the same time, he thought for a while and said, "When I was outside just now, I already figured out that the other party's family background was too big. I panicked and called you Brother Li. Now that I think about it, I shouldn't have done that. It's very likely to implicate you. Isn't it just a leg? At worst, I'll give my old leg to him." Hearing Su Hong's words, Su Xiaoping's eyes suddenly turned red. As Li Changsheng guessed, in order to protect his son, Su Hong had already prepared for the worst. The barbecue stall owner next to him opened his mouth, wanted to say something, but stopped. "It's okay, I'll go with you. We'll set off in a while." With that, Li Changsheng took out his phone and dialed out. At this moment, in a high-end club located in Qingzhou, the second master of the Chu family, Chu Xing, was making love with a fair-skinned woman. This was the girl that he spent 8,000 yuan to get yesterday. It was said that she was a college student of a third-rate university in Qingzhou and did this kind of thing part-time. Chu Xing liked this kind of girl. The other party was young and beautiful, and most importantly, she was a college student. Chu Xing often had a catchphrase when chatting with others: "I didn't go to college, but I did go to college." This had always been something that he was proud of. At the moment of passion, the phone on the table suddenly rang. Ring, ring, ring. Chu Xing, who was originally in high spirits, couldn't help but curse. F***CK. However, he didn't have the intention to pick up the phone. He covered himself with the blanket and wanted to continue. Who knew that the phone would ring again? So annoying. Chu Xing cursed as he stretched out an arm from the blanket and took the phone. When she saw the caller ID, she couldn't help but shiver. The anger on her face from being interrupted disappeared and was replaced with a charming smile. "Hello, Mr. Li." The woman on the other side also muttered a few words in dissatisfaction. When Chu Xing hung up the phone, a pair of delicate arms wrapped around Chu Xing's neck. "Second master, who's so annoying to call you at this time? It's a big shot," Chu Xing said casually. He climbed out from the blanket, grabbed the clothes beside him, and put them on. "Second master, this is just the beginning. You're leaving already?" Chu Xing turned his head and glanced at the woman. He smiled and said, "You little vixen, wait for the second master to come find you again. The one who called just now, in front of him, I'm just a dog. I don't dare to delay his matters." After saying that, he put on his pants, picked up the briefcase beside him, and hurriedly walked out of the room. The woman's eyes revealed a bit of curiosity. She knew Chu Xing's position in Qingzhou, a person that even he didn't dare to neglect. She didn't know who that person was. At this moment, Li Changsheng and the others had already walked down from Su Hong's house. Originally, the barbecue shop owner said that he would drive his car over. However, Li Changsheng said that there was no rush and that he would let someone drive over to pick him up. Su Hong had already learned from the barbecue shop owner that Li Changsheng's family lived in a villa. He knew that Li Changsheng's identity wasn't an ordinary person. However, he was also curious in his heart. What kind of person would drive a car to pick up Li Changsheng? After all, the power that he offended was like an unshakable mountain in his eyes. Moreover, the level of the car that came to pick up Li Changsheng sometimes also represented a person's position. On the side, Su Xiaoping's face was full of worry. Although Li Changsheng's fighting strength was fierce, and he couldn't help but be convinced, he still had a skeptical attitude towards Li Changsheng's background. After all, Li Changsheng's clothes and appearance didn't look like a rich family's young master. Moreover, he had never heard of any family's young master who could fight as well as Li Changsheng. Just like the guy who was hit in the head by Su Xiaoping. If it wasn't for a few people ambushing Su Xiaoping and knocking him down, Su Xiaoping's fighting strength could have completely oppressed the other party. Chapter 347. Time passed by minute. Just when Su Hong and the others were waiting impatiently, they suddenly saw a black Rolls-Royce appear. Behind the Rolls-Royce was a Mercedes-Benz sedan. Where did this big shot come from? Such a big shot. Su Hong couldn't help but sigh. He didn't realize that this was the person Li Changsheng said to pick him up. The owner of the barbecue shop next to them noticed the leading Rolls-Royce. The number 8 on the license plate was probably not less than the value of this car. Su Xiaoping, who was next to him, also widened his eyes. He thought that if he could sit in such a Rolls-Royce and meet with such a powerful aura, he would be able to scare his father, who was known as a well-known figure in the underworld. Of course, he was just thinking about it. Such a big lineup. Perhaps only the big shot in Qingzhou was qualified to sit in it. Especially at this moment, when the Rolls-Royce stopped, a middle-aged man in a black suit alighted from it. Rows of imposing, burly men in suits and sunglasses alighted from the Mercedes-Benz sedans. It was as if they were filming a movie. A group of strong men in black lined up in 2 rows, and then the middle-aged man strode over. When Su Hong and the others were puzzled, they saw the leading middle-aged man stop 3 steps away from them. Then he squeezed out a flattering smile on his face. "Mr. Li, I came as soon as I received your call. I didn't expect to be late because of the traffic jam on the road. Please forgive me." The middle-aged man's attitude towards Li Changsheng made Su Hong completely widen his eyes, and his brain couldn't react. Is this the person who came to pick up Li Changsheng? Li Changsheng nodded slightly, then turned around and said to Su Hong and the others with a smile, "Let's go, get in the car." He took the lead and sat in the leading Rolls-Royce. Chu Xing trotted all the way and opened the door. Until Li Changsheng sat in, he respectfully closed the door and sat in the front row. Su Hong, the owner of the barbecue shop, and Su Xiaoping sat in the second Mercedes-Benz. So the motorcade set off. During the whole process, Su Hong and the others felt like they were dreaming. Su Xiaoping, in particular, felt that it was unreal as he touched the soft seat. Even the owner of the barbecue restaurant, although he had seen the villa, where Li Changsheng lived, would never have thought that Li Changsheng had such great power. The car set off, attracting the attention of countless people along the way. After all, with such a lineup, it was obvious that they weren't ordinary people. Halfway through, Su Hong's phone rang. "Hello, are you guys here yet? You said you'd be here at 10 o'clock. I've been here for more than 10 minutes, and you didn't even show up. If you don't come, do you believe that I'll chop off your son's head?" A very arrogant voice came from the other end of the phone. It was from the other party's parents. "I'll be there soon," Su Hong said coldly and then hung up the phone. If he had heard the other party's voice before, his heart would have trembled. But now, sitting in this Mercedes-Benz, looking at the countless people outside who were looking at him with surprise, envy, and fear, he suddenly felt confident. "Mr. Li, because of the lack of time, I could only get such a lineup. Originally, if you gave me some more time, I could get more than 30 Rolls-Royces. That would be more in line with your status." Chu Xing sat in the front passenger seat, turned around, and said to Li Changsheng. The driver next to him was one of Chu Xing's newly hired lackeys. His family was poor and didn't see much of the world, but he was smart and also deeply doted on by Chu Xing. Just now, Chu Xing gathered such a large group of people just to pick up a young man, which already made him very surprised. Now, seeing the dignified second master of the Chu family actually using this kind of attitude to talk to people, he couldn't help but guess who the young man behind him was. No need, such a lineup is enough. Li Changsheng half closed his eyes and rested in the back. Chu Xing didn't dare to disturb him anymore, only telling the driver to drive slower. In a farmhouse's courtyard in Qingzhou, 5 middle-aged men in suits were sitting on mahogany chairs, each holding a cigar in their mouth. One of them was a bald, middle-aged man with a crescent-shaped scar on the back of his head. His name was Chu Chenggang. He was the parent of a young man who was hit by Su Xiaoping. Just now, he was the one who called Su Hong. At this moment, his eyes were wide open. That poor driver really has guts. I didn't even finish speaking, and he actually dared to hang up the phone. I originally planned to let him leave after breaking a finger, but now it seems that I can't let it go so easily. Chu Chenggang fiercely took a puff of his cigarette and said. The other 4 middle-aged men beside him all nodded. Around the courtyard, more than 30 young hoodlums who came to be his lackeys stood in 2 rows. Each of them was sloppy and had a ruffian aura all over their bodies. And the middle-aged man beside Chu Chenggang asked in a low voice, "President Chu, in a moment when the other party comes, how about we let Xiao Feng beat that kid up to vent his anger first, and then we make our move?" The Xiao Feng that the other party was talking about was Chu Chenggang's son, named Chu Feng. Chu Chenggang nodded. "Of course, he hit my son. My son naturally has to hit him back." As he spoke, he looked back at the room. Inside, 5 teenagers were standing there. One of them had a white cloth wrapped around his head. It was Chu Feng who was officially hit by Su Xiaoping. More than 10 minutes later, when Chu Chenggang and the others were discussing how to deal with Su Hong and his son, the closed door was suddenly kicked open with a click. Then a young man stepped in. Behind the young man, Su Hong, Su Xiaoping, and the owner of the barbecue restaurant followed closely. At the moment when the door was kicked open, Chu Chenggang suddenly stood up from his seat. The more than 30 hoodlums standing on both sides also became spirited. At a glance, Chu Chenggang saw Su Xiaoping standing next to Li Changsheng. With his years of experience in Jianghu, as soon as he saw the way the other party entered the door, he knew that the other party didn't come with good intentions. His eyes immediately showed a bit of coldness. "It seems that you have found a helper." As he spoke, he looked at Li Changsheng contemptuously. "Young man, the door can't be kicked open casually. Later, whichever leg you kicked open the door with, break it yourself. Otherwise, don't think about walking out of this courtyard today." In the room, after seeing Su Xiaoping, Chu Feng's eyes showed the light of hatred. Yesterday, he asked several friends to gang up on Su Xiaoping, but he didn't expect that the bumpkin in his eyes was so bold that he dared to hit him at the door of his house. In school, no one had ever offended him because of his father's identity. He had never been hit since he was a child. Xiaofeng, that man seems to be the guy who pretended to call the police to scare us that day. Later, Su Xiaoping chased to Chu Feng's house and hit him with a stick. At that time, he proudly told Chu Feng that they were a group of cowards who were scared away by one person. It turns out to be this guy. He actually came here to intimidate others. But does he think that my father has been in Jianghu all these years for nothing? Let's see how my father will deal with him later. Chapter 348. Chu Feng finished. The youths beside him also revealed looks of anticipation. They gnashed their teeth with hatred at the thought of Su Xiaoping's reckless behavior. None of you can run away today. He was hit by a stick yesterday and bled, but the doctor checked it and knew it was nothing serious. Chu Chenggang planned to let his son stay in the hospital, but Chu Feng insisted on coming to the scene. He made up his mind that after his father broke Su Hong and Su Xiaoping's legs, he would ruthlessly humiliate them. You want me to stay in this yard? Aren't you a bit arrogant? Li Changsheng said with a smile. Li Changsheng seemed to be a harmless guy, but it was not difficult for people with a little experience to find that he could be so calm in the face of the covetous eyes of the people in the yard. This calmness itself represented a kind of extraordinariness. What was more, as Li Changsheng finished speaking, a middle-aged man in a suit strode out behind him. Even Chu Feng and the other teenagers in the room could see that the middle-aged man's aura was extraordinary. Those gangsters were even more nervous, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. In an instant, all the eyes on the scene were focused on the middle-aged man. People guessed that this was the real finale. Chu Chenggang frowned. He felt that this middle-aged man was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen him for a while. However, out of self-confidence, he still asked loudly, "Who are you?" "Brother, I advise you not to get involved in this mess. Chu Chenggang, have a bad temper." Just as his voice fell, without waiting for Chu Xing to say anything, a row of well-built men in suits rushed in and stood neatly behind Li Changsheng. All of them were more than 8 meters tall. Even though they were wearing suits, one could still feel their bulging muscles and the explosive power in their bodies. With the entrance of these 30 strong men, Chu Chenggang's subordinates were like a ragtag army meeting in Ace Division. Although the number was the same, their aura was incomparable. At this time, a middle-aged man next to Chu Chenggang seemed to suddenly think of something and stammered, "Second Master." "What's Second Master?" Chu Chenggang was confused, but he heard the other party say in a low voice, "The Second Master of the Chu clan." "Chu Xing what?" At this moment, Chu Chenggang's hand trembled. Chu Xing smiled coldly and glared at them, then turned to Li Changsheng and cupped his hands, saying, "Mr. Li, how should we deal with these people?" "Mr. Li? Which Mr. Li?" This was the thought that arose in the minds of everyone present. Who else in Qingzhou could make the second master of the Chu clan? Chu Xing, lower his head. Chu Chenggang looked like he wanted to cry, but had no tears. He glanced at the young man who was standing there like a harmless animal, and instantly felt his whole body turn cold. Wasn't he just trying to seek justice for his son by teaching a taxi driver a lesson? Why did so many important figures appear all of a sudden? Little Ping, he's the one who threatened you and your father. Go over and slap him a few times. Li Changsheng instructed Su Xiaoping, who was still in a daze. Su Xiaoping's mind was a little muddled. This was the first time he had experienced such a battle. Just a few hours ago, he was still in a state of panic because of Chu Chenggang's phone call. It was as if a disaster was about to befall the entire family, and they were in a state of panic. But now, there was an earth-shattering change. In the yard, Chu Chenggang and the other 4 parents didn't even dare to fart. It could be seen that their legs were all slightly trembling. "Surnamed Chu, I heard that you're some important figure in Qingzhou, and even said that you're going to break the legs of my brother Su and my nephew. Is that true?" Li Changsheng looked at the dumbfounded Chu Chenggang and said coldly. He called Su Hong brother Su and called Su Xiaoping nephew. No matter how much of the information revealed was true or false, it had already expressed a kind of attitude. This wasn't something that Chu Chenggang could touch. Li Changsheng's words fell, and he glanced at Su Xiaoping, who seemed to have taken root under his feet. He knew that this child probably wouldn't be able to get into the role for a while. So he glanced at Chu Xing on the side. Chu Xing was an old fox and instantly understood Li Chongqing's meaning. He walked up and kicked Chu Qinggong's stomach, causing Chu Qinggang to retreat 2 steps. Then Chu Xing directly raised his hand and slapped towards Chu Qinggong's face. But when his hand slapped down, he realized that Chu Qinggang was too tall and he was a bit short. This slap was a bit strenuous. So he gave a look to a few subordinates behind him, and one of them immediately came up and moved the mahogany chair that Chu Qinggang was sitting on in front of Chu Xing. Chu Xing stood on the chair and slapped Chu Qinggong's face. Papa! Papa! It was 5 or 6 slaps. After he finished, Chu Qinggang still stood there. From start to finish, he didn't dare to block or dodge. Okay, you go to the side. Chu Xing pointed to the side. Chu Qinggang obediently stood to the side. At this time, he pointed to the other 4 and said, "You guys come one by one to receive your rewards." The remaining 4 were all famous figures in Qingzhou, but at this moment, they didn't dare to resist. They obediently lined up and walked over. Only after they were given a few slaps by Chu Xing did they stop. Okay, Li Chongqing ordered Chu Xing. Then he walked into the room. "I'm going to have a chat with these little brothers." Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Chu Qinggang and the others instantly became anxious. It's one thing for them to be beaten, but they didn't want their children to be implicated. Just as Chu Qinggang was about to move, he saw Chu Xing's ferocious gaze. In the end, he retracted his foot. In the room, seeing Li Chongqing walk over, the 5 youngsters all panicked. But the room was only so big, and they didn't hide. At this time, Su Xiaoping, who had been in a daze, suddenly opened his mouth and said, "Uncle Li, no need. They didn't hurt me, so I don't want to bicker with them." Hearing Su Xiaoping's words, Li Chongqing turned his head in shock. Seeing the other's bright eyes, he nodded. At this moment, Su Xiaoping seemed to have matured. For a boy to become a man, the process of going from immaturity to maturity, one was some kind of transformation in bed, and the other was having a goal to strive for in the future, something called an ideal. And Li Chongqing had unknowingly become a certain boy's role model. Okay, Li Chongqing nodded. This was actually already the best ending. The young prodigal son had turned over a new leaf. He believed that in the future, no matter how hard and tiring Su Hong was, he wouldn't need to get drunk again. Even if it was drinking, he would still be happy. "Let's go." Li Chongqing turned around. So the group of people came in a grandiose manner and left in a grandiose manner, leaving behind a cloud of dust and people who had returned to heaven from hell. Chu Qinggang let out a sigh of relief. He originally thought that the lowest price he had to pay today would be a broken finger. He didn't expect such an understated result, although getting slapped a few times was humiliating for him. The most important thing was that the person who slapped him was the second master of the Chu family. A real man knows when to yield and when not to take revenge for all the humiliation. If he couldn't even see this point, Chu Qinggang would have died under a chaotic blade back then and definitely wouldn't have the position he has today. I just didn't expect that a mere taxi driver would know someone like Mr. Li. What the fuck? Chu Qinggang couldn't help but curse. His hanging heart completely fell to the ground. Getting beaten was better than having his family destroyed, wasn't it? Chapter 349. Chu Xing, get someone to take Brother Su home, then find a car to take me back to school. The Rolls-Royce is too flashy. Li Chongqing said to Chu Xing. Chu Xing quickly nodded and called a driver. Li Chongqing got into the Mercedes and left. Chu Xing asked Su Hong and the others to get into his Rolls-Royce and drive them home. The second master of the Chu family was driving someone home. It would be unbelievable if people knew about this. But since this was Li Chongqing's order, Chu Xing didn't dare to be careless. Sitting in the car, Su Xiaoping finally couldn't help but ask, "Second master, who is this Mr. Li?" Even an idiot could tell that this second master of the Chu family was not ordinary. Otherwise, a big shot like Chu Qinggang wouldn't let him slap his face. So when Su Xiaoping asked the question, he was a bit nervous. To him, it took a lot of courage to talk to Chu Xing. This Mr. Li, let me put it this way. If he says he is number 2 in Qingzhou, no one dares to say they are number 1. Chu Xing smiled. You are lucky to know Mr. Li. If you need anything in the future, come find me at the Chu family. Chu family? The owner of the barbecue restaurant suddenly remembered something. His eyes were filled with shock. He opened a barbecue restaurant and served people from all walks of life. He heard a lot of people talking about the Chu family. Not only the owner of the barbecue restaurant, but also Su Hong thought of something. Only Su Xiaoping nodded with a silly smile. He didn't know what the Chu family meant, but he knew that the man he admired was very powerful. The number 1 man in Chuzhou City. He wanted to be as cool as him one day. After returning to school, Li Changsheng went to the combat room first. Wang Dongsheng and the others were preparing for the Christmas performance. Su Jing watched from the side and acted as the director. Although Su Jing didn't know martial arts, she was more experienced than Wang Dongsheng and the others in terms of how to rehearse and perform. Seeing Li Changsheng come in, the others stopped their training and gathered around him. Li Changsheng asked about the progress of their rehearsal and left. He could see that they were very attentive. Exiting the sparring room, Li Changsheng headed straight for class. The Christmas party was coming soon. In addition to the school's large-scale celebration, every class had to hold a class meeting in their own class. The school celebration was on the night of New Year's Day. Each class chose to celebrate Christmas a few days in advance so that it wouldn't clash with the school. Just now, Ma Yi had sent a text message to Li Changsheng, asking him to go to class for a meeting. If the class wanted to hold a Christmas celebration, the first thing they had to solve was the problem of the venue. Because every class had to hold a celebration, there was a shortage of space in the school that could be used as a venue. I went to ask yesterday, and even the multimedia classroom was borrowed by the art department. Our class leader was sick a few days ago, so our reaction was a little slow. It's too difficult to borrow a good venue now. When Li Changsheng entered, the publicity committee member, Zhao Qinggan, was complaining. The performance in class had already been rehearsed, but now they couldn't find a venue. It was really a heart-wrenching matter, especially as the leaders of the class. They were under a lot of pressure. I went to ask about the stadium, and it was also reserved. Now there are basically no good places in the school. The sports committee member, Zhang Wenbin, also shook his head and said. The class leader, Ma Yi, was frowning. Seeing Li Changsheng come in, he greeted him. Zhang Wenbin also patted Li Changsheng's shoulder with a smile. They had already seen Li Changsheng's ability last time at Haoxiang Hotel. Naturally, they didn't dare to neglect Li Changsheng. But Zhao Qinggan's face was a little awkward. He didn't like Li Changsheng from the beginning. Although he didn't have any substantial conflict with Li Changsheng was so popular that he felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. The other students in the group were silent. The matter of the venue should be handled by the leaders. Even if the ordinary students wanted to help, they were powerless. What's wrong? Can't you borrow a venue for the Christmas party? Li Changsheng asked casually. Yeah, all the good venues have been borrowed. Ma Yi sighed and frowned. Christmas was coming, and now the venue wasn't found. As a class leader, he couldn't escape the blame. Li Changsheng, don't you have a lot of power? We don't have a way. You have to think of a way for us. Zhao Qinggan said in a strange tone. Although he knew that Li Changsheng's identity wasn't ordinary, and he knew that he shouldn't offend Li Changsheng, sometimes jealousy would make people lose their minds. Changsheng has some power outside, but this is the school, and Principal Chun Ligua has already been transferred. Ma Yi glared at Zhao Qinggan. He also knew some of Li Changsheng's background. In the school, Chun Ligua was his backer. Now that Chun Ligua wasn't here, it was good enough that Li Changsheng wasn't targeted by the school leaders. What else could he do? Changsheng, Qinggan is like this. Don't mind him. Zhang Wenbin tried to smooth things over. He had a good relationship with Li Changsheng, but he and Zhao Qinggan were buddies who lived on the upper and lower bunks. He was afraid that Li Changsheng would hold a grudge against Zhao Qinggan. If we really can't borrow a classroom, we'll hold it in the field at the back. Ma Yi sighed. Hearing Ma Yi's words, the surrounding students showed bitterness on their faces. Now that the weather was cold, the field at night would freeze people, but it seemed that there was no other way. This was the only choice. Changsheng, help think of a way. See if you can solve the problems in the class. Ma Yi patted Li Changxing's shoulder. Zhao Qinggan curled his lips in disdain. Chen Ligua isn't even the principal anymore. What can he do? Before the class meeting ended, Li Changxing received a call from Lei Ming. He walked out of the classroom and pressed the answer button. On the phone, Lei Ming sounded hesitant. What's wrong, Director Lei? Just say it. Li Changxing frowned when he heard the other party's hesitation. Coach Li, didn't I tell you the other day to prepare a program for your combat team? I'm afraid that program won't be able to be performed. Why? Li Changxing raised his eyebrows. When he went to the combat room just now, he saw Wang Dongsheng and the others rehearsing enthusiastically. Why was it suddenly canceled now? This is Principal Shin's idea. On the other end of the phone, Lei Ming sighed. I got it. Li Changxing hung up the phone. Shin Donghai had a grudge against him, but he didn't expect him to be so petty. He even wanted to interfere with the combat team's performance. Chapter 350. Li Changxing naturally didn't care if they could perform a show, but Wang Dongsheng and the others obviously attached great importance to it. Moreover, after rehearsing for a few days, they even temporarily put aside their combat training. Now that they were suddenly notified that they couldn't perform, even Li Changxing found it hard to accept. This Shin Donghai is really annoying. After thinking about it, Li Changxing called Su Jing and told her that they couldn't perform. Su Jing's mood was obviously a little down. Looks like Shin Donghai wants to take revenge on you, but it's just a show. If you can't perform, then don't perform. Su Jing sighed. Li Changxing also felt that it wasn't worthwhile to argue with Shin Donghai over a show. But Wang Dongsheng and the others were indeed very attentive to this show. At this time, hearing that the class was still discussing the venue, Li Changxing suddenly had an idea. Since the school party didn't allow the combat team to perform, then performing in the class would be the same. Thinking of this, Li Changxing had an idea in his mind. Pushing open the door, Ma Yi was calling a friend in the student council. Zhang Ji, can you think of a way? Many of the shows in our class have already been arranged. What can we do without a venue? The voice on the other side of the phone sounded a little helpless. If you came me a few days ago, I would definitely be able to do it for you. But now that the venue has been reserved, we can't snatch it from others. Our student council has to pay more attention to our image. Hanging up the phone, Ma Yi became more and more dejected. At this time, Li Changxing walked directly to the podium and made a gesture for silence. Suddenly, many people looked at him in confusion. I have an idea about the venue for the party. Since the venues in the school have been reserved, then can we rent a small stadium outside the school as a venue? After Li Changxing finished speaking, the students below looked at each other, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Rent a stadium? Was a stadium something that could be rented so easily? Zhao Qinggan couldn't help but chuckle. Student Li, do you think the stadium is owned by your family? Everyone is worried about the venue. They don't have time to listen to your jokes. Principal. In Shun Donghai's office, Lei Ming had a bitter smile on his face. I was the one who decided on the combat team's performance in advance. Isn't it a little inappropriate to suddenly cancel it now? Lei Ming naturally knew about the grudge between Shin Donghai and Li Changxing, so he didn't dare to speak loudly. He only cautiously reminded Shin Donghai. He wanted Shin Donghai to understand that a principal should at least have some magnanimity. To make things difficult for Li Changxing over such a trivial matter, it would be a little too petty. Unexpectedly, Shin Donghai did not understand the meaning behind Lei Ming's words. Instead, he sneered. Director Lei, I just want to let that Li Changxing know that the school has changed. This is just a small warning to him. He wanted the combat team to perform, but I just want to make his rehearsals go to waste. I want to see if he has any complaints about the members he supports so much when such a thing happens to the combat team. After saying that, he waved his hand and said, You go and do your own thing. You don't have to worry about Li Changxing's matters anymore. All right. Thunder turned around and walked out of the office. At this moment, Shun Donghai had a cold smile on his face. Let me think. When he knows that the combat team can't perform at the Christmas party, what will Li Changxing do? Maybe to not let their rehearsals go to waste, he will perform these performances at the class party. Thinking of this, Shindong Hai took out his phone. Hello, Director Su. I heard that all the classes are preparing for the Christmas party. Remember, no school venue can be lent to Finance Department Class 5 as the venue for the party. Yes, just say that this is my idea. After hanging up the phone, Shan Donghai couldn't help but laugh out loud. Hee hee. Li Changsheng, I'll let you know first. This is the consequence of offending me, Shan Donghai. At this moment, in the class, when Li Changsheng's voice came out, everyone looked at him as if he was a monster. The class monitor, Ma Yi, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Changsheng, you're oversimplifying things. The rental price of a gymnasium is at least a few $100,000 a day. Even if it's a small gymnasium, it can't be rented without $200,000 to $300,000. Our class budget isn't enough. Beside him, Zhang Wenbin was trying to find a way out for Li Changsheng. Changsheng, I know that you have a lot of connections and a lot of power. It's not like you can't borrow the gymnasium, but if you want to use the gymnasium for activities, you have to apply in advance. Right now, the time doesn't allow it. Looks like we can only think of other ways. The others found it funny. This was Li Changsheng's idea. If it was spread out, people would probably laugh their heads off. Zhao Qinggan's eyes were full of undisguised mockery. He originally wanted to find an opportunity to make Li Changsheng lose face so that he could feel better. He didn't expect that he didn't need to do anything at all. Li Changsheng ran into the muzzle of the gun himself, looking for humiliation for himself. This was called asking for trouble. You won't die. These aren't problems. I just asked my friend. The third gymnasium in the west of the city is owned by my friend's family. It's been empty recently, so he agreed to lend it to us for free for a day. Before entering the door, Li Changsheng greeted the second master, Chu Xing. Coincidentally, Chu Xing had invested in a football team a few years ago. For this reason, he didn't hesitate to spend money to build a gymnasium. Li Changsheng could use the Chu family's gymnasium with just a word. Not to mention a day, even if he wanted to use it for 8 to 10 years, it wouldn't be a problem. At this moment, everyone in the class was dumbfounded. Looking at the dumbfounded crowd, Li Changsheng smiled. Looking at the withered leaves outside the window, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. It was a new year. Christmas came as scheduled. When the fighting team found out that although they couldn't participate in the school's party, they could perform at the class party, some of their emotions were finally comforted. After all, they had been practicing diligently for the past few days. They didn't want their work to be cut short before it could bloom. In the next few days, Li Changsheng began to discuss the specific process of the party with Ma Yi and the others. Ma Yi and the others didn't need to worry about the lighting, sound equipment, and so on. Chu Xing had found a professional team for that. The only thing was that there were a little few people in the class. Although it was a small to medium-sized gymnasium, it was still the size of a field. The seats in the class were a little sparse. Why don't we post a notice in the school and let the other teachers and students in the school come and participate? After all, not every class will hold a party. The school only has so many places. If the other classes can't borrow a place, they can only give up on rehearsals. Ma Yi suggested. That's a good idea. When the time comes, we can let the other classes organize a performance and have a big party. Zhang Wenbin was a little excited. The other class members also nodded. At the same time, they looked at Li Changsheng. Unknowingly, Li Changsheng had become the soul of the class. Okay, let's do it. Li Changsheng made the final decision. From beginning to end, Zhao Qinggan stood at the edge, not saying a word. When Li Changsheng borrowed the gymnasium, he established his prestige in the class. And he was like an idle prince who lost in a power struggle with the emperor. In the presence of Li Changsheng, he felt like he couldn't raise his head. Chapter 351. Changsheng, I heard that your class is going to hold a Christmas party in the gymnasium. I want to perform breaking a boulder on my chest. A clear voice was heard. It was Ji Lin. His long hair, that was like the wind, had been cut by him, leaving only 3 millimeters of short hair. Compared to before, he was less immature and more manly. Seeing this enemy, Ma Yi revealed a rare smile. Ever since the last incident, the grudges between the two had been resolved. You? At most, you can perform breaking a boulder on your chest. Li Changxing joked. He then discussed the details with the others. Li Changsheng left the classroom and went to the sparring room. In the sparring room, Wang Dongsheng and the others started to rehearse the program. When they heard Li Changsheng say that he wanted to get all the classes that couldn't hold a party together, they were very excited. Originally, they thought that it was a pity that only one class would come to enjoy the program that they had rehearsed for so long. But if they could get all the classes that couldn't participate in the program, perhaps a third of the students in the entire school would go. At that time, the scene wouldn't be any worse than the school's party. The next day, a notice appeared on the school's bulletin board. Finance Department Class 5 will hold a Christmas party in Qingzhou's 3rd Gymnasium. As long as you are a student of Qingzhou University, you can participate. There will be a wonderful program. When the notice came out, all the students of Qingzhou University knew. For a time, it was filled with all kinds of discussions. A small class party was turned into a large-scale concert party. Using a gymnasium as the venue, what a big deal. Therefore, the classes that had rehearsed the program but couldn't find a venue, and the classes that didn't rehearse the program and could only envy the other classes that held the party, were all excited. It was like an orphan finding his parents, or a lonely person seeing a warm home. Many people were moved and were looking forward to the arrival of this day. Less than an hour after the notice was posted, class monitor Ma Yi's phone was about to explode with calls. The class representatives of each class surrounded the entrance of the entire class, and the 3rd Gymnasium in the western part of the city had already begun preparations. There was a professional band, a professional sound engineer, a professional lighting engineer, as well as a luxurious stage that had been arranged. Xu Xing was famous in Qingzhou for being stingy, but facing the missions that Li Changxing assigned to him, he definitely did not spend a single cent. At this moment, in the principal's office of Qingzhou University, Shun Donghai, who was sitting on a large leather chair, gripped a fountain pen tightly in his hand with a gloomy expression. Of course, he knew that Li Changsheng was going to hold the class party in the 3rd Gymnasium. He never thought that Li Changsheng would build a bigger venue outside the school when he refused to let him use the school venue. This guy really has an extraordinary background. However, does he think that I won't be able to do anything to him just because of this? Shen Donghai coldly snorted. At the same time, he was somewhat fearful of Li Changsheng's background. Originally, Li Changsheng was just a 20-year-old young man. Naturally, he didn't take him to heart. A new emperor brings new courtiers. Now, Qingzhou University was his world. However, facing the Chu clan, the #1 power in Qingzhou, even he felt a little apprehensive. Of course, he wouldn't give up on going against Li Changsheng because of this. He would just be more cautious. Shen Donghai wasn't without a backer. The young master of the Wang clan in Beijing actually took the initiative to find him and asked to deal with Li Changsheng. So what if Li Changsheng had the Chu clan's background? Compared to the Wang clan in Beijing, he was still a country bumpkin. You have the Chu clan, I have the Wang clan. You are the coach, and I am the principal. No matter how you compare, you can't compare to me. Shen Donghai coldly snorted and then dialed a phone number. Hello, Vice Principal Yang. Please arrange for the school's New Year's party to be held in advance. It will be held on the night of Christmas Day. Let all the teachers and students attend the party. Isn't Li Changsheng going to hold a party in the 3rd Gymnasium on Christmas Day? Then we will also hold it on that day. We are representing the school. He is only representing a class. Invite the actors from the arts and crafts troupe to perform. We need a professional team that is 10 times or 100 times more exciting than him. I like to see what the students will choose. Even if Li Changsheng had the Chu clan as his backer, Shen Donghai didn't believe that a class party could compare to his school-level arts and crafts troupe. He didn't make this decision purely to argue with Li Changsheng. He also wanted to ask for credit from his master in Beijing. The young master of the Wang clan had told him very clearly that he hated Li Changsheng and wanted to mess with Li Changsheng. Therefore, as long as he did something that didn't benefit Li Changsheng, the other party would be happy. As long as the other party was happy, his position would be more stable. There was hope for him to take another step forward in 3 years. Okay. Vice Principal Yang nodded and agreed. As Shun Donghai's lackey, he naturally spared no effort to carry out Shun Donghai's orders. After hanging up the phone, Shun Donghai picked up his teacup and took a sip. He imagined that when Li Changsheng held a party with great fanfare, only to find that there were only a few students in the class, the scene would be very funny. Li Changsheng, you're still too inexperienced to fight with me. I'll deal with you from the small side first. I want you to feel the taste of frustration. In the end, I'll push you into the abyss, Shen Donghai said to himself bitterly. On that day, Li Changsheng made him lose face in front of so many leaders and almost ruined his future. His hatred for Li Changsheng was even greater than his hatred for Principal Chen Ligua. Just after lunch, the students of Qingzhou University found that the announcement of the party in the third gymnasium that was posted on the bulletin boards had been torn down and replaced by another announcement. The school has decided to hold the double dawn party in advance. Many people were dumbfounded. What does the school mean? Didn't they say that the party would be held on New Year's Day? Why did they suddenly bring it forward? This caught many classes who had rented venues and rehearsed the program a little off guard. They could only cancel the class activities at the last minute, which also made many people complain. After rehearsing for many days, they couldn't perform in the end. At the same time, many smart people smelled something unusual. Removing the announcement of Class 5 and replacing it with the school's announcement, it seemed that the newly appointed principal and Li Changsheng were going against each other. Thinking that Li Changsheng was Chen Ligua's man and some previous grievances between Principal Chen and Shen Donghai, many people suddenly realized that there would be a good show to watch. However, most people were not optimistic about Li Changsheng. After all, it was a party held in the same class. Even if it was in the third gymnasium, so what? It was still the same program. It couldn't be performed in another place. It was very different from the school's party. All the people in the school who had the talent for performing and special skills were dug out and performed on stage. In terms of grandeur and professionalism, it was enough to beat Li Changsheng's class party. This Shen Donghai is too much. He's clearly going against you, Su Jing said bitterly. Wang Dongsheng and the others were also a little angry. The dignified principal was shameless to this extent. It seems that there will be only a few people attending our party. Ma Yi, the class monitor, also said in frustration. Chapter 352. Then, are we going to watch the school's big party or continue to hold our small party? Zhao Qinggan asked with ulterior motives. Indeed, the school had given the order for all classes to attend the party. If the fifth class openly disobeyed the order, it would be difficult for the class leader, including the class monitor Ma Yi. But if the fifth class chose to attend the school's big party and gave up their small party like the other classes, then all of Li Changsheng's efforts would be in vain. Thinking of this, Zhao Qinggan couldn't help but feel proud. It was a typical thought of harming others without benefiting oneself. Of course, our class's party will continue. Ma Yi looked at Zhao Qinggan with a bit of dissatisfaction. In the end, Li Changsheng borrowed the gymnasium for the sake of the class. If he turned around and supported Li Changsheng, then he would undoubtedly let Li Changsheng down. Yes, we will hold our party. Zhang Wenbin had always been Ma Yi's most loyal ally. While Li Changsheng and the others were lamenting the shamelessness of Principal Shen Donghai in the sparring room, another shameless news came. At 3:00 in the afternoon, a piece of news was announced on the school's public forum. The school had temporarily decided to hold the Christmas party at the auspicious Dragon Plaza. And the auspicious Dragon Plaza and the third gymnasium were only separated by a road. Too shameless. Su Jing couldn't help but curse. He held the party across from us. Isn't it obvious that he wants to humiliate us? Even Wang Dongsheng, Wei Hu, and the others showed an indignant expression. The dignified principal's actions are simply disgusting. It seems that this Principal Shen is sparing no effort to suppress me. Li Changsheng originally didn't want to argue with him, but the other party's behavior was too much. He just invited a few people from the arts and crafts troupe. Their performance is more exciting. We can also invite them. Li Changxing immediately called Chu Xing. With Chu Xing's connections, it wasn't difficult to find a few professional singers and dancers. Time passed day by day. Even Zhang Tao and the others in the dormitory heard about the competition between Li Changsheng and Shen Donghai. Zhang Tao immediately said that he would also help to get a band there. College students all liked rock and roll, just like their unruly and indulgent youth. Yang Fan and Zhang Xiaofeng didn't have Zhang Tao's connections, but they still found a few good friends and formed a temporary group, saying that they wanted to cheer for Li Changsheng. Although Li Changsheng knew that it would not be of much use, he was still very grateful for their enthusiastic help. The storm about the Christmas party in the school was getting more and more intense. However, Li Changxing didn't feel much about it. He didn't intend to compete with Shen Donghai for anything. He only hoped that Wang Dongxing's rehearsal wouldn't be in vain and that the class would have a venue. It was Shen Donghai who insisted on escalating the matter to the level of a contest. However, Li Changsheng didn't care about it, but he didn't know that Shen Donghai treated it as a major event to complete. At this moment, in the principal's office, Shen Donghai was holding his phone and looking at a picture of a beautiful woman. She was a very popular female celebrity recently. She became popular all over the country with just one song. She was even worshipped as a goddess by many students. Not only was she beautiful, but her voice was also sweet. The most important thing was that she was a singer from Qingzhou and had high popularity in Qingzhou. When the Christmas party comes, Jian Kai will appear. With her fame, I'm afraid that even the students of Class 5 won't be able to help but come to my place to watch the show. That Li Changsheng will taste the feeling of being abandoned by the whole world. Shen Donghai sneered. At this time, Vice Principal Yang knocked on the door and came in. Principal, that singer Jian Kai will arrive at the airport in half an hour. Good. Shen Donghai stood up. You come with me to the airport to greet her. With that, he hurriedly walked out of the office. Not bad. This equipment and lineup is comparable to a concert. At this moment, Li Changsheng was in the stadium, accompanied by Chu Xing. On the other side, Nangong Jingming, who was dressed in white, was like a holy snow lotus. Her beauty was beyond compare. Changsheng, I heard that the program for this party is a bit lacking. It just so happens that I recently invested in an entertainment company and signed a contract with a popular celebrity. His popularity is frightening, and he is known as the national male god. When the little girl saw him, she seemed to have lost her soul. He will arrive in Qingzhou tomorrow. What do you think? Am I good enough? National male god? Li Changsheng smiled. Even he, who didn't care much about the entertainment industry, had vaguely heard of the other party's name, Sun Haiyang. Many female fans stayed at the airport for several months just to see him. Every time he heard that as long as he appeared, he would be flooded by those fanatical female fans. Every time he went out, it would cause news reports, and he would always be at the top of the hot search list. His ability to earn money was very strong. He didn't expect that Nangong Jingming would sign such a popular young star as soon as she opened an entertainment company. Although such a star was said to be supported by brainless fans, their influence was undeniable. Thank you very much, Li Changsheng said sincerely. Nangong Jingming specially came all the way here just to help him organize a party. This made Li Changsheng feel very touched. Saying thank you and it's over? You are too perfunctory. Nangong Jingming rolled her eyes at Li Changsheng. She was exceptionally charming. Chu Xing, who was at the side, was stunned. He didn't notice a brick under his feet and almost tripped. He couldn't help but smile awkwardly. He found an excuse and said that he wanted to see how the stage was being built. It was as if he was running away. Nangong Jingming was simply too beautiful. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was devastatingly beautiful, especially that fresh and elegant temperament on her body. Occasionally, she would reveal the attitude of a little girl, which was extremely charming. Ordinary people would find it hard to resist. Then how do you want me to repay you? Li Changxing smiled. His gaze swept past Nangong Jingming's oval face that was filled with classic beauty. Even with his thousands of years of experience, he still felt dazed and absent-minded for a moment. Puffed. Nangong Jingming couldn't help but chuckle. Li Changsheng, were you peeking at me just now? No. Li Changsheng righteously denied. TSK, I see that your saliva is almost dripping onto your clothes, and you still say that you weren't peeking. This lady is so beautiful. It's not embarrassing that you can't control your eyes. Saying that, she curled her lips. When Chu Xing returned, she immediately returned to her cold and aloof appearance. In the next few days, the people around Li Changsheng all heard about the party. Even Chu Ming came to him and said that she wanted to add a program for Li Changsheng. Chu Ming was one of the 4 goddesses in the school. She had unparalleled influence in Qingzhou University. Her arrival undoubtedly increased the attraction of Li Changsheng. Chapter 353. Christmas was finally here. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, more and more students entered the venue. It got dark early in the winter in the north. It was almost completely dark by 5 o'clock, so they had to be prepared in advance. Li Changxing's party was held in the gymnasium, which was sheltered from the wind and rain. The school was held in the square, which was cold and thin. But because there were so many people, it didn't seem cold. At 6 o'clock, the party began. Qingzhou University's party officially began. The opening was a dance performance by the song and dance troupe. Their skills were extraordinary, and it was very exciting. In the sports hall, Class 5's party had also begun. Compared to the square on the other side of the street, there were fewer people. But the first person to appear was Chu Ming's Tai Chi. With Chu Ming's reputation in Qingzhou University, it caused a lot of cheers. At the entrance of the gymnasium, there was a huge LED screen, which clearly showed the scene inside the gymnasium. Many of Chu Ming's loyal fans quietly left the crowd and slipped into the sports hall, which increased the popularity of the sports hall. In the first round, both sides were evenly matched. At this moment, in the first row below the stage, Shen Donghai's face was a bit gloomy. Chu Ming was Qingzhou University's campus belle, but now she was openly standing on Li Changxing's side, which made him a bit angry. Qingzhou University's campus belle actually chose to perform for a class during the double night party. No matter how good the dance troupe he invited was, how could they compare to Chu Ming's influence in the university? Li Changsheng, do you think you can compete with me with Chu Ming's help? You're too naive. Shen Donghai sneered in his heart. Today's party will let you know who rules Qingzhou University. After the party, when I kick you out of Qingzhou University, I'll let you know the consequences of offending me. You're the one who made me lose face in front of the leaders. This time, I'll make you a stray dog and end your university career. Shen Donghai was thinking about how to deal with Li Changsheng in his heart. Li Changsheng was chatting with Chu Ming backstage. He was very grateful that Chu Ming was willing to help. After Chu Ming's performance, the second person to go on stage was Yu Wei. Yu Wei had specially dressed up today, making her already beautiful face even more stunning. During this period of time, Yu Wei was a hot topic on all the major online platforms. As soon as he stepped onto the stage, someone immediately recognized him. Isn't this Yu Wei, the campus belle of Green Vine High School? I didn't expect Li Changsheng to invite her. There was no need to mention how shocked Ma, Yi, and the others were. With the popularity of video apps, a bunch of internet celebrities were created. Although Yu Wei did not deliberately register an account to promote herself, the people who surrounded her door and took videos of her every day had already made her famous. As Yu Wei stepped onto the stage, it was obvious that more students were quietly coming over, making the empty gymnasium a little more lively. Yu Wei went on stage and sang a song. Under her clear voice, many people were intoxicated. Soon, after Yu Wei left the stage, the rest of the performances took their turn. The performances prepared by the students of Class 5, as well as the hard martial arts performance by the fighting team, all caused a burst of cheers, making the evening party look lively and colorful. It's a pity that if the school didn't insist on competing with us, the evening party would be 10 times more lively than this with the performances of the other classes. Ma Yi said with some regret. At this time, after a hot dance in the square, magic performances, skits, and crosstalks followed. The popularity reached the peak, and the performance of Class 5 was immediately inferior. After all, it was a party hosted by the school, and there were enough people. Shindonghai also found a lot of singing and dancing groups from outside. Naturally, the performance of the students could not be compared to a lot. When the people who had just come to Class 5 to watch the party saw the live broadcast on their mobile phones, they all ran back to the square. They would rather endure the cold and watch the rich performance over there. The performance of Class 5's rehearsal could not be said to be bad, but compared with the school's performance, it was too bad. Originally, there were several classes who had agreed with us to rehearse and perform here, but an hour ago, Shindonghai passed down a message that if any class participated in Class 5's party, the counselor would be punished. One class suppresses one class. As soon as these words came out, the counselor called his class back, causing us to miss a lot of performances. He smiled bitterly. Before that, his counselor also contacted him and asked him to cancel the Christmas party, but he did not listen. He was also under a lot of pressure. Shameless, Su Jing said angrily next to him. However, they could only talk about it secretly. After all, Shindonghai was the principal of Qingzhou University. It's okay. It's just a party. As long as you're happy, there's no need to compare with him. Li Chongqing smiled. On the square next to them, many students occasionally looked at the big screen at the entrance of the gymnasium and could not help but shake their heads. Compared with the school's party, the difference between Class 5's party and the school's party is too big, right? Look at how childish those performances are. Yeah, it's not as exciting as this one. I originally planned to go over there to see the beauties, but after Chu Meng and Yu Wei went on stage, the performances after that were not as good as the previous one. It started strong and ended weak. But it's understandable. After all, how can a class party be compared to a school party? It's just a waste of such a good venue like the gymnasium. Look at the sparse audience below. There are only 2 or 3 big cats and small cats. I don't know if the performances are awkward or not. Among these discussions, some were gloating and some were sighing with pity. Originally, Class 5 was able to borrow the gymnasium to hold the party and could be said to be in the limelight. But who would have thought that they would be suppressed by Shindonghai? At this moment, the performance in the square suddenly stopped. Shindonghai walked onto the stage, and suddenly the whole place fell into silence. Shindonghai picked up his phone and dialed a number. The phone's page was displayed on the big screen. The number was actually marked as Li Chongsheng. What is he going to do? At this moment, Shindonghai's head appeared on the big screen in the gymnasium. What's going on? Li Chongsheng was a little confused. Chu Xing wiped his sweat and walked over. Our network has been hacked. This Shindonghai is too shameless. Connecting the call, Li Chongsheng pressed the answer button. Li Chongsheng, classmate, it seems that your class's party is a little lonely. Why don't you let your classmates come over here to watch the party? After all, the school is everyone's big family. It's not good for your class to be so special. Shindonghai was originally a petty person, especially after losing face because of Li Chongsheng last time. He had been suppressing this anger in his heart. When Chen Ligua was the principal, he could only endure. But now that he was finally in charge, he had the mentality of a country bumpkin turning into a nouveau riche. He wanted to humiliate Li Chongsheng. This would bring him pleasure. Chapter 354. Li Chongsheng, what's in your class party here? I don't think you have anything else to perform. It will only get worse and worse. On the contrary, our party is very exciting. I even invited a lot of professionals. It's very exciting. As a principal, he was showing such a petty side in front of the students. Today, Shindonghai didn't care. He just wanted to humiliate Li Chongsheng. He had been holding it in for too long. This was called a villain getting his way. However, just as he finished speaking, before Li Chongsheng could respond, a figure suddenly walked onto the stage. Who said we don't have anything here? Next, I'll perform a dance for everyone. Wu Xiaowan, who was wearing a dance outfit, walked up. As the secret lover of countless boys in Qingzhou University, Wu Xiaowan's appearance caused a commotion both in the gymnasium and in the square. Just now it was Chu Ming. Now it was Wu Xiaowan. Shen Donghai's face was getting uglier and uglier. Just now he said that Li Changsheng didn't have anything to perform, and Wu Xiaowan went on stage. This was tantamount to a slap in the face. Li Changsheng didn't expect Wu Xiaowan to support him. Just as he was about to ask something, he saw Wu Xiaowan's cold face and turned her face to the side. "Teacher Wu, you're really good." Shen Donghai suppressed his anger and said, "Even if you're here, it's just one more performance. Our school has more than 10 performances." Shen Donghai was very confident. This time, in order to suppress Li Changsheng, he had put in a lot of effort. However, in the next moment, figures suddenly walked onto the stage one by one. "I'm Ming Lan, an artist signed by Qing Ming Entertainment. I like to sing a love song for everyone. I'm Bai Ping, an artist signed by Qing Ming Entertainment. I'll perform a dance for everyone. I'm Ruo Lu, an artist signed by Qing Ming Entertainment. I'll play the piano for everyone." Beautiful figures walked onto the stage one by one. They were all popular young actresses. Each of them was gorgeously dressed and had gorgeous appearances. There were more than 10 of them. Even a large-scale party on TV would probably not be comparable. Qing Ming Entertainment was a company under Nangong Jingming. She had not said that she would bring so many celebrities to Li Changsheng. It could be said that she had given Li Changsheng a surprise. Shen Donghai clenched his fists. The song and dance troupes and folk artists he had invited were nothing compared to this celebrity lineup. Not to mention, there was also Chu Ming and Nangong Jingming, the famous people of Qingzhou University. For a moment, although many people were sitting in the square, their hearts had already flown to the stadium. One had to know that any of these celebrities would have to spend an expensive ticket for their concerts. But now they could watch it for free. Where else could they get such a good deal? Shen Donghai was furious. His face turned purple. He had originally thought that victory was within his grasp, but who would have thought that he would be at a disadvantage in the blink of an eye? If today's matter were to spread, people would say that Shen Donghai was competing with a student. He had gathered the strength of the entire school to hold a banquet, but he had lost to a student. As the principal, he had lost all face. How can this Li Changsheng be so powerful? How did he manage to find so many celebrities? Not only Shen Donghai, but even Ma Yi, as well as everyone in Class 5, were stunned. When they saw the wonderful party at the square, everyone in Class 5 wished that they could grow wings and go over to watch the party. But now, even if they were beaten, they would not leave. There were so many celebrities that they could only see on TV. This Li Changsheng is too awesome. Wu Xiaowan, who originally thought that she was Li Changsheng's savior, couldn't help but feel a little jealous when she saw so many celebrities appear. In this way, her role was not so obvious, especially when she saw Nangong Jingming, who was obviously the leader of this group of celebrities, looking at Li Changsheng's affectionate eyes, and Chu Ming and Yu Wei, who each had their own merits. She felt a little bitter. This guy has so many outstanding women around him. I don't seem to have any advantage. Since the last trip to Medicine King Valley, she had acted a little snobbish. Li Changsheng had always been indifferent to her. Even when she took the initiative to express her love in class, Li Changsheng played dumb. This time, she decided to change her strategy and play hard to get. So in the meeting that day, she deliberately ignored Li Changsheng's greetings. Although she helped Li Changsheng on stage today, she still had a cold face. But now, she found that she was wrong again. There were so many women around him. If she was not careful, they would be snatched away by others. It was really stupid of her to play this game. The more women Li Changsheng had around him, the more it accentuated his charm. Wu Xiaowan decided that she must firmly grasp Li Changsheng in her hands. If she missed such a good opportunity, she would regret it for the rest of her life. Finally, I will sing a song for everyone. A pretty boy who looked like a girl walked up. Suddenly, the crowd cheered. Ocean, ocean, ocean. Sun Haiyang was also brought to Li Changsheng by Nangong Jingming. His lethality to girls was undoubtedly terrifying. The moment he appeared, all the students in the gymnasium began to cheer. Even the square was in an uproar. How is it surnamed Shun? Our program is more exciting than yours, right? Nangong Jingming walked onto the stage. She was not like Su Jing and Wu Xiaowan. After all, they were teachers of the school and were somewhat afraid of Shindong Hai. As the daughter of the Nangong family, she did not put Shindong Hai, the principal, in her eyes at all. Your side seems to only have some small artists. No one knows their names. If such people come to my company, I won't even sign them. How can they compare to us? Nangong Jingming's words made Shindong Hai's face turn red. He had heard of the Nangong family's daughter. She was very powerful. He had seen her at a banquet and couldn't get her figure out of his mind for half a year. At that time, he thought that only the top and most outstanding men were worthy of such a woman. But now a goddess that he could only look up to and secretly admire was standing opposite him. Everything was for Li Changsheng. Jealousy, anger, shame. Shindong Hai's heart was filled with mixed feelings. He stood there awkwardly. He realized that he had underestimated Li Changsheng's power from the beginning. He used to think that Shindong Hai only had Chunligwa's support. Now, it seemed that Chunligwa was not his backer. Instead, he seemed to be Chunligwa's backer. He had actually offended such a person. Hey, Principal Shun, you're not talking? Why don't you let your students come here to watch the program? There's nothing good to see at the school's gala. Nangong Jingming continued. The commotion at the square was getting bigger and bigger. It was obvious that many students couldn't help but want to come to the gymnasium to watch the program. Many people were shocked by this scene. A class's gala was actually bigger than the school's gala. When Shindong Hai saw the situation, he gritted his teeth. Embarrassing. This is too embarrassing. At this time, Vice Principal Yang walked over. Old Shun, it's time for us to use our trump card. Shindong Hai's eyes lit up. Yes, he still had a trump card that he hadn't used yet. Jian Kai, the most popular star in the entertainment industry, was known as the national goddess. She could definitely suppress Sun Haiyang. As long as Jian Kai, went on stage, the situation could be stabilized. Jian Kai, was a star from Qingzhou and had the largest fan base in Qingzhou. It's not clear who will win until the end. Let's see who will be the final winner later. Shindong Hai snorted and looked at Vice Principal Yang. Inform Jian Kai that she can perform on stage. Chapter 355. Originally, he had arranged for Jian Kai, to be the last, but now it was obviously not possible. She had to go on stage immediately to turn the tide. Okay, I'll inform them right away. Vice President Yang walked down. At this moment, the noise in the field was getting louder and louder. It seemed that they were about to run to the stadium. With so many celebrities, everyone couldn't wait any longer. Everyone, don't be anxious. We still have a mysterious guest on our side. Shindong Hai suddenly spoke, which calmed the noise in the field a little. Hearing Shindong Hai's words, everyone on Li Changsheng's side was puzzled. Could it be that Shindong Hai has some heavyweight who can suppress such a celebrity lineup? Impossible. There are so many popular celebrities. A mysterious guest wants to overshadow them all. How big of a superstar is this? Su Jing shook her head and said. Her words reminded Nangong Jingming. There really is one. Nangong Jingming's eyes were filled with worry. President Nangong, are you referring to Jian Kai? Sun Haiyang smiled slightly. Jian Kai won't come. Her value is too high, and her schedule is full recently. If you want to invite her, it will be impossible unless it's a top figure in the capital. Hearing Sun Haiyang's words, Nangong Jingming was slightly relieved. Today, she made such a big lineup to help Li Changsheng. If she lost to Shindong Hai in the end, it would be a pity. With such a lineup, the level of excitement is enough. Even if the other party really invited a superstar, it doesn't matter. Li Changsheng didn't care. He didn't perform immediately. Everyone was curious to see what kind of mysterious person Shindong Hai would invite. 5 minutes later, there was a sudden roar from the square. A woman in red walked out of the crowd and stepped onto the stage. Her face was charming and charming to the bone. She was definitely a femme fatale. The other party's face wasn't necessarily top-notch, but that kind of charm was irresistible to any man. Su Daji. Many people thought of these 3 words. She was simply a real-life version of a vixen. It's really Jian Kai. Miss Jian, it's up to you now. Shen Donghai saw the reaction of everyone in the field and breathed a sigh of relief. Next, my family will perform a dance and a song for everyone. I will also invite a live audience member to sing a song with me. Jian Kai. Er's voice was very beautiful and pleasing to the ear. As soon as she spoke, the crowd instantly boiled over. My goddess is going to perform in 3 shows, and I even have a chance to dance with my goddess. This is such a blessing. To be able to meet the goddess in person is truly a blessing of 3 lifetimes. Because of Jian Kai, alone, she suppressed the limelight of more than a dozen stars in the stadium. Even Sun Haiyang showed a wry smile. It was true that he was very popular, but compared to Jian Kai, he was a level lower. I never expected this. Nangong Jingming also sighed, looking a little dejected. Jian Kai, who even she couldn't invite, was actually invited by Shen Donghai. Originally, with Shen Donghai's ability, he wouldn't be able to do this. Looks like there's someone behind Shen Donghai. It's not just Shen Donghai who's targeting Changsheng. There's another big shot who's targeting him as well. But who exactly is it? Nangong Jingming couldn't think of anything. This result is already pretty good. Ma Yi's words sounded like he was comforting everyone, but more like he was comforting himself. With so many stars in the lineup, who would have thought that they would encounter a super popular contestant like Jian Kai? Below, even the students of Class 5 couldn't sit still and wanted to move to the square. Jian Kai, Er's charm was too great, so great that both men and women were attracted to her. Accept your fate. Su Jing also lowered her head. Principal Shun, can I start performing now? Jian Kai's face was filled with confidence. Of course, but there are still more than 100 students in the stadium. Why don't you wait for them to come over before you start performing? Let them see your elegance. Shen Donghai deliberately said this. Sure enough, the students below couldn't sit still. Especially Zhao Qinggan, as one of the planners of Class 5, actually took the lead and walked towards the gate. We have more than a dozen stars in the lineup. Don't we even have a chance to perform? Nangong Jingming was somewhat unwilling. In order to participate in this party, these stars had pushed back many announcements, but in the end, this was the result. Jian Kai, smiled slightly, looked at the camera and said, Students in the stadium, I will wait for you for 2 more minutes. If you don't come over, my performance will start. There are also a few acquaintances in the acting circle. Why don't you all come over and perform? I will remember your support. Jian Kai, who definitely has a high status in the entertainment industry. Coupled with her appearance and her relationship with several big directors, even the stars began to be tempted by her words. If any of you dare to go over, then don't blame me for being impolite. Nangong Jingming snorted coldly. If these stars also went over, then Li Changxing's side would really be slapped in the face. It seems that my school's party is still the most exciting. Shen Donghai couldn't help but laugh. There were already scattered people in the stadium who began to walk towards the square. It seemed that the victory was already decided. Principal Shun is really amazing, counterattacking. He even invited such a big star like Jian Kai, but he kept it a secret and only invited her in the end. He is really amazing. Li Changsheng is a student after all. How can he be compared with Principal Shun? It's a pity that so many stars were invited by Class 5, but they all ran away. Seeing that there were not many audience members left, Li Changsheng was about to announce the end of today's party. Suddenly, a figure walked out. She was tall and slender, and she was wearing a slightly tight black dress that showed off her perfect figure. Her black hair was loose and fluttered slightly as she walked. She had delicate facial features and a cold face. Especially those eyes. She was like a queen, high and mighty. She looked at Jian Kai on the screen and said coldly, I think it's better for you to come over here and perform. Her tone was commanding. At this moment, everyone was stunned on the spot, thinking, who is this? Only one person recognized this woman. It was Yi Shuang, the one who went to the Mount Hua sect with Li Changsheng last time to seek revenge. She was the one who was going to be given as a gift to the Mount Hua sect's young leader, but was saved by Li Changsheng. They didn't expect that she would appear here today. Moreover, her queen-like appearance, coupled with her cold temperament, had a unique charm. If Jian Kai was the kind of woman who was charming to the bone, then Yi Shuang was a person who was cold to the bone. She was more like a snow lotus on an iceberg, which could be seen from afar but not touched. Her temperament and aura were too powerful. Even Shun Donghai was stunned on the spot. Chapter 356. But he quickly reacted and sneered. Who do you think you are? You think you can order Miss Jian Kai around? Shun Donghai knew that Jian Kai was invited by the young master of the Wang family. What was the status of the Wang family in Beijing? Although this woman's aura was not ordinary, she had a lot of background. Beautiful women appeared one after another, showing Li Changxing's powerful connections and personal charm. But what was the use? At least he would lose today. The others also shook their heads and thought, even if your temperament is invincible, why would Jian Kai listen to you? Shun Donghai was about to turn off the call with Li Changshan and continue the program. Jian Kai was suddenly bowed to the big screen. Misty, I'll go over now. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone was dumbfounded. This was especially true for Shun Donghai. His entire body stiffened, and the smile on his face froze. It was as ugly as it could get. What's going on? Not to mention him. Even Li Changxing's side was confused. With such a casual sentence, Jian Kai actually walked to the gymnasium. At this moment, she was like a maid who was ordered around by someone. The people around Shun Donghai were all dumbfounded. They were all in a daze. It happened so suddenly that they were not mentally prepared. The other students also widened their eyes. Why does Jian Kai listen to her? Just when everyone was puzzled, Jian Kai had already crossed the road. A minute later, she appeared in the gymnasium and bowed to Yi Shuang. Greetings, Miss Yi. Others did not know Yi Shuang's power, but Jian Kai was clear. Otherwise, she would not have betrayed her in front of so many people. The Yi family was very powerful in Beijing. It could even be said that it was one of the top forces. It was not even as powerful as the Wang family. Although she was hired by the young master of the Wang family, she did not dare to disobey Yi Shuang's orders. Even if she had to offend Wang Shua, she had to listen to Yi Shuang. Because offending Wang Shua would at most suffer a little, but offending Yi Shuang would not let her live. The Yi family was like a noble family in Beijing, and the Wang family was at most a lackey of the noble family. There was no way to compare. People knew how to choose. The eldest daughter of the Yi family? Could it be the Yi family in the capital? Nangong Jingmeng exclaimed. She did not know Yi Shuang, but she had heard of the Yi family. They were one of the top forces in the capital. On the other side, Shun Donghai did not understand what Yi Shuang's identity represented, but he knew that he had lost today. He had lost completely. Even his trump card, Jian Kai had joined the enemy. What else could he bring out? Sure enough, after Jian Kai joined the party, the students of Class 5, who had originally planned to walk to the square, turned back. The people in the square were in an uproar. Someone started to walk towards the gymnasium. Jian Kai's charm was too great, not to mention that there were more than a dozen celebrities, including the campus belle Yu Wei, Chu Meng, and the goddess in many people's hearts, Wu Xiaowan. There were no more programs in the square, and Class 5's party had just begun. Everyone knew what to choose. There's no program for the school's gala. We can't just stand here and do nothing. Not only the students, but even a few teachers couldn't help but walk towards the gymnasium. The law could not be enforced when everyone was present. Stop! Stop right there! Shun Donghai shouted angrily. No one listened to him. In the end, he sat on the chair dejectedly. The confrontation between him and Li Changsheng had now turned into a joke. Principal Shun, it seems that you won't be able to sleep tonight. Li Changsheng replied faintly. Shun Donghai almost vomited blood. So the program in the stadium began again. First-class lighting, first-class sound, first-class venue, plus first-class program. Countless people picked up their mobile phones and sent it to their circle of friends, sent it to their space, and sent it to all social media platforms. Tonight was destined to be a star-studded night. It was an unforgettable night. After the program began, Li Changsheng and several girls came backstage. Just as he was about to ask something, he saw Yi Shuang, who looked like a queen, suddenly smiled and looked at Li Changsheng. "Mr. Li, how are you? I said we would meet again. You didn't expect it to be so soon, did you?" "Yes, just call me Li Changsheng." Li Changsheng nodded. Looking at them chatting and laughing, Wu Xiaowan bit her lips. She knew that she had one more rival in love. Yu Yue stood at the side and didn't say anything. She was always gentle and considerate. She liked Li Changsheng. As for other girls who also liked Li Changsheng, that only showed Li Changsheng's charm. She even felt proud of Li Changsheng. Of course, there was still a little bit of jealousy. Nangong Jingming also sighed. From a moment she first met Li Changsheng, she knew that a man as outstanding as Li Changsheng would definitely not lack women around him. Yi Shuang was not the first to appear, nor would she be the last. "By the way, how did you know I was in Qingzhou? And you also knew that I would be holding a class party today?" Li Changsheng was puzzled. He remembered that when he left, he didn't tell Yi Shuang his true identity. He only said a name. "It's a coincidence." Yi Shuang smiled and said, "I have a friend who has a good relationship with young Master Wang. He told me that young Master Wang has been running to Qingzhou recently. He just happened to mention to me yesterday that Wang Shuo came to Qingzhou to deal with someone. I was curious who young Master Wang wanted to deal with, so I did some research and found your name. By the way, how did you offend young Master Wang?" Yi Shuang looked at Li Changsheng. In her view, Li Changsheng was in Qingzhou, while young Master Wang was in Beijing. It seemed that it would be difficult for the two to cross paths. It should be because of a woman. Li Changsheng thought of Bai Qianxue and couldn't help but feel a slight pain in his heart. "I just didn't expect young Master Wang to be so narrow-minded, even though he pretends to be so gentlemanly. He really is a beast in human clothing. You really have a lot of romantic debts." Yi Shuang winked at Li Changsheng and glanced at the girls around her. Su Jing, Yu Yue, Wu Xiaowan, Chu Ming. Which one of them wasn't a beauty? After the party ended, Class 5 suddenly became a hot topic in the school, especially Li Changsheng, who became a celebrity in the school. After the party ended, Nangong Jingming brought the artists under his name back to the Northwest. Chu Ming and the others went to class as usual. On the surface, they were calm. The only difference was that after Yi Shuang came to Qingzhou, she actually stayed in Qingzhou. She even rented a house in Qingzhou. Every day, she would come to Li Changsheng at 8:00 sharp and leave at 10 o'clock at night. She was even more punctual than the alarm clock. For 5 days, Li Changsheng was followed by a beauty every day, especially when this beauty was treating others like an ice goddess. When she turned to look at Li Changsheng, she immediately became charming and charming, making many people envious. "Don't you have to go to school?" Li Changsheng finally couldn't help but ask. Yi Shuang looked to be only 18 years old. This was the age to go to school. She followed Li Changsheng every day. "No one in the school dares to control me because my dad is a shareholder of the school." Yi Shuang raised her chin proudly. Chapter 357. After a few days of interaction, Li Changsheng had a certain understanding of Yi Shuang's family. It was an extremely wealthy and powerful family. They were even more powerful than Su Xiaolin and Qiyu. If there was anyone among Li Changsheng's subordinates who could compare to them, it would probably be Gu Mangong, who was fighting for supremacy in the south. Thinking of Gu Mangong, Li Changsheng couldn't help but smile. It was said that the naughty boy who had followed him around back then had already become a true overlord. However, he hadn't seen him since his rebirth. Su Xiaolin and Qi Yu probably didn't dare to reveal the news of his return without his permission. "Li Changsheng, I will be returning to the capital in 2 days. Can you agree to a request of mine?" Yi Shuang blinked her big watery eyes and looked at Li Changsheng. This woman always acted like a little girl in front of Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng, who had seen her cold and powerful aura, sometimes felt a little dazed. He had cultivated for thousands of years and had countless experiences, but he still couldn't see through women. No, Li Changsheng rejected her directly. This Yi Shuang liked to act pitiful in front of him. He didn't know what she was up to. In an instant, Yi Shuang's eyes dimmed. She lowered her head and was extremely depressed. This made Li Changsheng's heart tremble for no reason. He almost nodded and agreed when he saw her pitiful appearance. However, in the next moment, she made a face at Li Changsheng. I didn't manage to trick you. Li Changsheng took a deep breath. He couldn't understand how a woman could be so multifaceted. Sometimes she was weird, sometimes she was an ice goddess, and sometimes she was gentle and kind. He didn't even know which was the real her. I still want to fly with you on the sword. Yi Shuang finally spoke of her purpose. It turned out that she wanted to experience the feeling of flying on a sword. For ordinary people, this was indeed a very magical thing. That won't do. Li Changsheng shook his head and rejected her. I'm in school now. If I fly into the sky, the whole world will explode tomorrow. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Yi Shuang did not feel dejected. Instead, her eyes lit up. So, you're saying that if we go to a place where there's no one around, you can bring me along with you? How about tonight? We'll see. Li Changsheng casually declined. What are you going to do in the afternoon? I feel that you're either reading in the library or meditating every day. It's really boring. Why don't you go out and have some fun? Yi Shuang looked at Li Changsheng cautiously. When Li Changsheng was meditating, it was as if he was sleeping. She was bored to death. She knew that Li Changsheng would meditate and cultivate every afternoon, so she suggested nervously, I'm not interested in entertainment. Li Changsheng shook his head. I think it's too boring to cultivate like you. Why don't we go roller skating in the afternoon? Yi Shuang suggested. Li Changsheng shook his head. Let's go to the arcade. It's the biggest arcade in Qingzhou. It's really fun. Li Changsheng still did not say anything. Then let's go shopping, go to the mall, or go on an outing to collect the scenery. Yi Shuang did not care about Li Changsheng's silence. Instead, she sat next to Li Changsheng with a smile. Her face was beautiful, and her eyes were full of affection, especially when she was wearing clothes that outlined her perfect body curves with incomparable charm. Since you don't like either, why don't we go to the tea house for tea? It's quite cold. Yi Shuang mumbled. Only then did Li Changsheng remember that it was already winter. The cold wind was bleak. His body was different from ordinary people, so naturally he could not feel it. Yi Shuang's clothes were thin to begin with, and now her face was red from the cold. Why didn't you say so earlier? Come home with me, Li Changsheng said. Suddenly, Yi Shuang's face was flushed. Her eyes were a little evasive, and her jade-like skin was a little shy. She misinterpreted Li Changsheng's words. That's not good, is it? What's not good about it? Li Changsheng was about to say something when he suddenly thought of something. He could not help but cover his mouth and chuckle. What are you thinking? Yi Shuang seemed to have realized that she had misunderstood. She could not help but glare at Li Changsheng. She looked a little embarrassed, stomped her feet, and said, You bullied me. I'm ignoring you. With that, Yi Shuang turned and walked in the direction of the school gate. Hey, are you really angry? Li Changsheng was used to Yi Shuang being obedient to him. Seeing her leave like this, he instantly felt a sense of emptiness. Hee, why do you care about me so much? Yi Shuang turned her head and winked at Li Changsheng. I have some personal matters to deal with. I'll look for you tomorrow. With that, she waved at Li Changsheng. The moment she turned around, Li Changsheng clearly saw a trace of worry in her eyes. She looked at her phone before she left. Did something happen? Yi Shuang did not return after she left. The next day, just as Li Changsheng was about to call her to ask if she had encountered any difficulties, Li Changsheng's phone rang. When he looked up, he saw a pretty figure standing in the courtyard of his villa. When he opened the door, he could clearly see that Yi Shuang's face was a little haggard. What's wrong? Did something happen? Li Changsheng asked with concern. Yi Shuang smiled. No, it's just that I have to leave Qingzhou and return to Beijing tomorrow. I can't bear to part with you. Li Changsheng felt the tenderness in Yi Shuang's eyes and felt a little touched. As the young miss of a wealthy family, she had been acting naughty and mischievous in front of him for the past few days. But Li Changxing knew that this was not her true nature. She was just using this method to close the distance between them. Your villa is quite big. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have rented a house outside. I would have just stayed in this villa. Li Changsheng smiled slightly. From her expression, Li Changsheng felt a strong reluctance to part. He knew that she was really going to leave. In the past, Yi Shuang had used the excuse of leaving to ask Li Changsheng to go shopping with her. However, it was obviously different this time. After welcoming Yi Shuang into the house, Li Changsheng turned on the TV in the living room. Yi Shuang went to the kitchen to wash the fruits and made tea for Li Changsheng. She was very skilled in making tea. Her movements were pleasing to the eye. She looked like a docile wife. Seeing that I'm leaving tomorrow, can you fulfill my wish for the last 2 days? Yi Shuang said with a smile as she placed the teacup in front of Li Changsheng. She had taken off the frosty mask of the eldest young lady of the Yi family. At this moment, in front of Li Changsheng, there was only a face that could captivate birds and beasts, as well as the gentleness a woman should have. Admiring her delicate face, Li Changxing nodded. He naturally knew that Yi Shuang was talking about flying on the sword. Okay. Hearing Li Changxing's words, Yi Shuang's face was filled with joy. Other than flying on the sword, can you take me shopping tomorrow? There's a fashion show at Honda Plaza. I want to see it. Of course. Li Changxing had no reason to refuse. Yi Shuang came all the way from Beijing to help him. In addition, she deliberately got close to him over the past few days. Even a rock would be warmed up. Chapter 358. Changsheng, an immortal like you, is so powerful. I'm sure you don't care about many families in the secular world, right? Yi Shuang suddenly opened her mouth, but hesitated. That should be the case. Li Changxing smiled. He stood in front of the window and looked at the slightly gloomy sky outside. In winter, the whole world seemed to be gray and defeated, but the house was very warm. He had lived for thousands of years. Wasn't he an immortal in the eyes of ordinary people? If one day my family offends you, please let them go for my sake, okay? Yi Shuang stood up from the sofa and walked behind Li Changsheng. Suddenly, she hugged his waist with both hands. She had been with Li Changsheng for the past few days. Although she acted like a little fangirl, she had been paying attention to the distance between her and Li Changsheng. She and Li Changsheng had never even touched each other's hands, and such a bold action was even more unprecedented. Using the sadness of her impending departure, coupled with the two of them being alone, she finally gathered the courage to do a bold thing. Li Changxing's body stiffened slightly, but he didn't reject her hug. Yi Shuang buried her head in his back and said sadly, I'm the eldest daughter of the Yi family. In many people's eyes, I'm high and mighty. But I can't reach your world. Immortals and mortals are different. I often wonder if there will be a day when I can't find you. So these days, I've been trying to put down my pride and try to get close to you. I know that no matter how outstanding I am, no matter how high and mighty I am, I can never reach your world. So I've used all kinds of ways to show myself in front of you. I just hope that you can remember me. Even if I can only live in your memory, I'm satisfied. Li Changxing turned around and hugged Yi Shuang's slender waist. Yi Shuang suddenly stood on tiptoe and kissed him gently. This was her first kiss. Their lips came together gently, inexperienced and passionate. Her lips were slightly cold, but her body was like warm jade. After the initial shock, Li Changsheng quickly grasped the initiative after a moment. It wasn't until Yi Shuang's cheeks were red and she felt like she was suffocating that they finally separated. She lowered her head. Her cheeks were flushed red, and her eyes sparkled. She was so charming and delicate. He hugged her tightly, wishing he could crush her into his chest. This incomparably holy snow lotus bloomed only for him at this moment. The next morning, Li Changsheng crawled out of the quilt and stretched. He did not have the habit of wearing pajamas. Time to eat. The door was pushed open. Yi Shuang, who was wearing an apron, immediately blushed. She spat, You're not serious. Then, he hurriedly closed the door and left. Today, she promised to accompany Yi Shuang to watch the fashion show. After breakfast, the two of them went out and took a car to Honda Building. This place was exceptionally lively today. Yi Shuang had already bought the tickets in advance. When the two walked in, the show had just begun. In fact, Li Changsheng didn't have much interest in these things. Li Changsheng couldn't appreciate the beauty of those strange clothes. He was someone who didn't know much about clothes. The venue was very lively. In addition to many photographers, reporters, and celebrities in the fashion industry sitting in the first row, there were also many men and women from Qingzhou's upper-class society. Li Changsheng didn't go to the front row. Instead, he found a seat in the corner and sat down. Because there was a sign next to it that said no smoking, he was bored and resisted the urge to light a cigarette. He asked for a cup of milk tea. Recently, he had been quite interested in sweet things. Yi Shuang sat opposite Li Changsheng. In public, she had returned to her ice goddess persona. She was dressed in a professional suit. Her powerful aura made many men sneak glances at her. As a result, the originally ordinary Li Changsheng also became the focus of everyone's attention. In the venue, opposite Li Changsheng, there were a few people who were definitely familiar with Li Changsheng. But because there were too many people and they were too far away, they couldn't see Li Changsheng. Among these people, there was Bai Ruolin, Bai Qinshua's aunt who used to dislike Li Changsheng. There was also Bai Guanyuan, the old man who valued Li Changsheng a lot because Li Changsheng saved his life. There was also Bai Jinbin, the famous second lord of the Chuzhou city, who was in charge of everything. There was also Bai Mingtang, Bai Qinshua's cousin. Old man Bai Guanyuan wasn't interested in the scantily clad women walking up and down the stage. Most of the people in his life were conservative. Although he knew the development of the times and the trend, he was instinctively disgusted by clothing that revealed a lot of skin. He felt that it was immoral. Especially Wang Shaw, who was sitting next to Bai Guanyuan and trying to please him, made Bai Guanyuan even more unhappy. Ever since everyone in the family looked down on Li Changsheng, old man Bai had already noticed the good points about Li Changsheng. Although Li Changsheng looked a lot more ordinary compared to Wang Shua, Li Changsheng didn't really look ordinary. He just kept a low profile. On the other hand, Wang Shua in front of him was dressed in branded clothes. They were indeed a perfect match for his granddaughter, but old man Bai still felt that something was missing. Bai Mingtang, who had always been regarded as a spoiled brat by old man Bai, admired his sister's new boyfriend. He was the heir of the Wang family in the capital, and he was much more respected when he went out to meet his friends. He often talked about the marriage between the Bai family and the Wang family. A few people in the social circle who didn't like him also took the initiative to suck up to him. This was all thanks to Wang Shua. Bai Jinbin frowned and felt a bit conflicted. He compared Li Changsheng to Wang Shua, and to be honest, he liked Li Changsheng's personality more. His current status in the Chuzhou city was largely due to Li Changsheng's influence. However, Li Changsheng could only give him so much, but Wang Shua was different. The Wang family in the capital could definitely bring him to a higher level. Thinking about it this way, Wang Shua seemed to be the best choice for both the Bai family and Bai Qinshuo. Therefore, even though he liked Li Changsheng a lot, he still felt that Bai Qinshuo's choice was the right one. Grandpa, second uncle, I didn't invite you here to watch the show. I invited you here because Wang Shua wants to open a fashion design company in Qingzhou City for me. I studied this when I was abroad. These models and the designers were all transferred from other companies by Wang Shua. Soon, even this Honda Plaza will be under my name. When Bai Qinshuo said this, she looked at Wang Shua with a tender gaze. The Bai family didn't lack money, and Bai Qinshuo didn't value money that much. She had just confirmed her relationship with Wang Shua, and he had already set up a company for her. A man who was willing to spend money on her was always a happy thing. She had spent nearly 500 million on the Honda Plaza, and after a few years of appreciation, it was worth more than $1 billion. Wang Shua gave away the money without batting an eye. In comparison, Li Changsheng was not even close to Wang Shua. Hearing Bai Qinshuo's words, everyone from the Bai clan regardless of how they felt about Wang Shuo before, was shocked. 1 billion yuan square and a design company. This was a lot of money. The two of them had just confirmed their relationship. If they really got married in the future and the two families formed a friendship, then the Bai family would probably rise to the top. Not bad, Wang Shuo. It seems that you are sincere toward Qinxue. Even Bai Guangyuan, who had always been indifferent toward Wang Shuo, cracked a smile. That's right, brother-in-law. Let's go home for dinner later. It'll be more lively with the family. Bai Jinbin said with a smile. Brother-in-law, I'm going to open a company in the capital next month. You must help me. The capital is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. It's all thanks to you. Bai Mingtang changed the way he addressed Wang Shuo. Chapter 359. Bai Qinxue rolled her eyes at her cousin, but her face also showed a bit of pride. This was her boyfriend. Not only did he treat her very well, but no matter where she went, having such a boyfriend made her feel very proud. Sunny, handsome, good quality, a typical tall, rich, and handsome man, but not fickle in love. It was really hard to find one. This was what a good woman like her should have. That guy who doesn't cherish himself, let him regret it. Bai Qinxue couldn't help but think of that figure again, and she felt a little heartache. Her feelings for that person were already very faint. Wang Shuo is better than him, and loves himself more than him, right? When the show was over, the crowd gradually dispersed. The people of the Bai family chatted and laughed as they stood up and prepared to leave. Bai Guangying, who was walking at the front, suddenly stopped, because when he turned his head, he saw a man sitting on a chair stretching. When he turned his head, their eyes met, and everyone's expression was very interesting. Bai Guangyuan's face was a little embarrassed, as if he was caught in bed. Because he was talking and laughing with Wang Shuo, he remembered that this young man in front of him saved his life, and also saved the Bai family. Now he seemed to have done something ungrateful. Bai Jinbin smiled bitterly. He never thought that he would meet Li Changsheng in this kind of place and in this kind of way. Bai Mingtang was a little better, muttering, enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Bai Qinxue, who was originally discussing the development of the design company with her aunt Bai Rulin and how to expand the business, the moment she raised her head, her delicate body stiffened, and the expression on her face froze. What's wrong with Qinxue? Bai Rulin, who was imparting business experience to Bai Qinxue, asked doubtfully. When she saw Li Changsheng, she also fell into silence. The atmosphere was a little strange. Why are you here? Bai Qinxue gritted her teeth and took the lead to speak. No matter how she told herself, it was Li Changsheng who didn't know how to cherish her first, and she threw herself into his arms. In fact, she was very clear in her heart that she was sorry to Li Changsheng. She chose Wang Shuo between Li Changsheng and Wang Shuo. She was not loyal to the relationship between the two when she was studying abroad. Therefore, at this moment, she was somewhat ashamed and did not dare to face it. Li Changsheng didn't say anything. He just smiled, picked up the milk tea on the table, and put it into his mouth. He didn't even look at them anymore. Let's go, Bai Qinxue whispered. The Bai family members nodded, but before they could take a step forward, they saw a figure standing in front of them. Your name is Bai Qinxue, right? The other party's voice was cold, but pleasant to the ear. It also carried a sense of superiority and dominance. The one who spoke was Yi Shuang. She stared coldly at Bai Qinxue. You are? Bai Qinxue looked confused. I'm Li Changsheng's girlfriend. Yi Shuang introduced herself. Hearing Yi Shuang's self-introduction, everyone from the Bai family was shocked. In terms of appearance and aura, Yi Shuang was not inferior to Bai Qinxue in any aspect. In particular, her aura was much stronger than Bai Qinxue's. So what if you're Li Changsheng's girlfriend? Please step aside. Bai Mingtang shouted in dissatisfaction. What happened between Li Changsheng and my sister is already in the past. What do you want? Don't tell me you want to compete with my sister. She's just a piece of junk that my sister doesn't want. Hearing Bai Mingtang's words, everyone from the Bai family frowned. No matter what, Li Changsheng was the benefactor of the Bai family. However, They didn't say anything. After all, Li Changsheng was no longer related to the Bai family. Helping one's family or not, this was a choice that most people would make. Who do you think you are? How dare you say that my Changsheng is a piece of junk? Yi Shuang glared at him. Bai Mingtang, who was more than 7 meters tall, took half a step back subconsciously. Yi Shuang looked at Bai Mingtang with disdain. She continued to look at Bai Qianxue. I thought you were so beautiful that you dared to abandon my Changsheng. It turns out that you're just an ordinary woman. You thought that you had found a backer after hooking up with the Wang family in the capital. You're just a bunch of idiots who threw away a watermelon for a sesame seed. Changsheng helped your Bai family so much. Is this how you treat him? Changsheng is kind and doesn't want to argue with you. But I can't take this lying down. Everyone from the Bai family was lectured by Yi Shuang. Their faces didn't look good. Bai Roland's temper wasn't good. Although Yi Shuang's aura was strong, she still couldn't help but retort. What's wrong with our Bai family? It's Li Changsheng who wants to eat swan meat and did those things willingly. What? He found a new girlfriend, and now he's here to flaunt his strength? It's his ability that he can find a girlfriend so quickly. But compared to Wang Shuo, he's a piece of sh*t. Bai Roland's words were unpleasant. She used to admire Li Changsheng, but now Wang Shuo was her niece's husband. Yi Shuang snorted. Do you think Changsheng's excellence can be discovered by you bunch of snobs? One day, you'll regret it. You Bai family don't think you can soar by hooking up with the Wang family, do you? Huh. As long as I'm here, your Bai family won't be able to leave Qingzhou. After saying this, Yi Shuang directly took out her phone and called a real estate businessman who cooperated with the Bai family. She bluntly told him to give up any cooperation with the Bai family. Everyone from the Bai family was stunned. They've never seen such overbearing behavior. Cutting off someone's path to wealth without a word. Bai Qianxue looked at Wang Shuo for help. Bai Mingtang directly said, Brother-in-law, where did this woman come from? She's so arrogant. Quickly teach her a lesson. Wang Shuo's face showed a bit of a bitter smile. Just as he was about to stand up and say something, he saw Yi Shuang hang up the phone and make another call. This time, it was for the head of the Wang family. She said bluntly, if your son wants to date, I don't care. I want the Bai family to go bankrupt. If your Wang family dares to interfere, then you're my Yi family's enemy. If the previous call caused the Bai family to fall into a crisis, then this call completely destroyed their hope of turning things around. Wang Shuo, say something. Bai Qianxue was also a bit anxious. Yi Shuang, who hung up the phone, only had a cold smile on her face. Don't count on your boyfriend anymore. If he doesn't want the Wang family to fall into trouble, he won't dare to help you at all. Also, don't expect to open this square in the design company. I've already talked to him before I came. Even if you give him 10 billion, he won't dare to sell it. After that, she directly walked up to Bai Qianxue and said word by word, I've done everything possible to become his woman, even in my dreams, but you don't know how to cherish it at all. You're really the stupidest woman I've ever met. When you realize the benefits of longevity, it'll be too late for regrets. After that, she walked over and held Li Changsheng's hand. The two of them directly left the square. Only the Bai family's faces were left green. Wang Shuo, why didn't you say anything just now? Bai Qianxue was a bit angry. She was humiliated and targeted by a woman in front of so many people, but the man she was most proud of was like a mute and became a coward. I want to say something, but I can't because she's the eldest daughter of the Yi family. After that, Wang Shuo's mouth showed a trace of bitterness and grievance. I can't afford to offend her. Chapter 360. You invited me to watch the show today, just to do these things, and let me see this scene, right? After leaving the square, Li Changsheng looked at Yi Shuang. I'm sorry, Changsheng. Yi Shuang wanted to say something, but Li Changsheng smiled first. Silly girl, you don't have to apologize to me. I know you're standing up for me. I should be the one thanking you. Yi Shuang only breathed a sigh of relief after hearing Li Changsheng's words. She was really afraid that Li Changsheng would be angry because of that. At that moment, a Rolls-Royce stopped by the road. The car door opened, and an old man came out. He said respectfully, "Young mistress, master asked me to take you back." "Okay." Yi Shuang's eyes showed some reluctance. She said to Li Changsheng, "Changsheng, I'm going back to capital city. I'll come and look for you in a few days." After saying that, she got in the car and looked back repeatedly. After the car door closed, the old man took a long look at Li Changsheng before driving the car away. Li Changsheng clearly felt a trace of hostility from the old man's eyes. Inside the Rolls-Royce, Yishuang only looked away when Li Changsheng's shadow was no longer in the car. She returned to her usual cold look. "Young mistress, I'm just a servant, but I still want to remind you that you're not a good match for such a poor boy. Master will not agree, and neither will the family. This is my private matter. It's not up to you to butt in," Yishuang said coldly. "Changsheng is my savior. I've reiterated this to you many times. Besides, don't you think you're being a snob? Changsheng is just a low-profile person who doesn't care to show his strength in front of outsiders." "Huh." The old man curled his lips and showed some disdain. "Young mistress, I know what you're trying to say. He's an immortal who can fly. What do you mean by destroying the entire Huashan sect all by himself? Young mistress, don't make up stories. Who would believe such a thing? Immortals don't exist in this world. He's a poor boy. He's a poor boy." As a subordinate who has watched young Miss grow up, I would like to remind young Miss not to forget her identity. Please respect yourself and don't bring shame to the Yi family. Haha, I'm looking for Li Changsheng to bring shame to the Yi family. If I marry that man according to my father's plan, do you think it's an honor? Yi Shuang sneered. A phoenix marrying a pheasant is a disgrace. The plan of the Yi clan's 2 generations cannot be allowed to go wrong. If you don't want that brat to die, you'd better listen to this old servant's advice. After saying that, the old man focused on driving. Yi Shuang, who was sitting in the back seat, looked a little disappointed. On the other side, Li Changsheng watched as the car disappeared at the end of the road. He mumbled to himself, "Yi Shuang, is this why you begged me? For your sake, if the Yi clan really provokes me, I won't kill them." Li Changsheng was not a sentimental person. At this moment, looking at the street without the Rolls-Royce, his heart suddenly felt empty. Humans, after all, are not heartless animals. Even if they have lived for thousands of years, they still can't see through the love between men and women. Perhaps this was why his master, who was a Taoist priest, did not let him become a monk after taking him in as a disciple. He was not suitable for the path of heartlessness. He was originally a person in the mortal world, coming and going in the mortal world. Shaking his head, Li Changsheng planned to return to the villa alone. The phone in his pocket rang. He picked it up and saw that it was Ma Yi calling. He picked up the phone. "Changsheng, bad news. The school suddenly sent out a notice. You've been expelled from the school. Zhang Wenbin, I, and the members of the combat team have all been punished. Even Wu Xiaowan and Su Jing have been suspended." Ma Yi's voice was a little anxious. Li Changsheng's heart was instantly covered by a burst of anger. In the face of Shun Donghai's provocations several times, he was too lazy to argue with him. He did not expect the other party to be despicable to this extent. He directly used the power in his hands to take revenge on Li Changsheng without hiding anything. If Li Changsheng was the one being punished, he would not be so angry. However, because of him, the combat team, Su Jing, Wu Xiaowan, and Ma Yi were all punished. This touched Li Changsheng's bottom line. "Changsheng, what should we do now?" Ma Yi on the other end of the phone was completely confused. Although his family was quite powerful, he had no other choice now. "It's okay. I'll let Shin Donghai take back the order obediently. You don't have to worry," Li Changsheng comforted. He hung up the phone and took a taxi back to the school. Li Changsheng did not go to see Ma Yi. Instead, he went directly to Shin Donghai's office. The office door was closed. Li Changsheng went up and kicked the door open. The teacup in Shin Donghai's hand fell on the table. The tea instantly soaked a few documents on the table. When he saw that it was Li Changsheng, the anger on Shin Donghai's face disappeared. His hands were casually placed on his thighs, and his body leaned back on the chair. There was a hint of playfulness in his eyes. "Shin Donghai, You expelled me and suspended Wu Xiaowan and Su Jing's classes. I heard that even Chu Ming and the others were punished. You have guts. Do you know the background of Chu Ming's family? Of course I know. The #1 family in Qingzhou. But so what? If you mentioned the Chu family before, I might not dare to do anything. But now, the Chu family is nothing. You don't have to use the Chu family to pressure me. I'm not afraid. I'm not using the Chu family to pressure you. I'm giving you a chance to take back your decision. Otherwise, I'll make you regret it. Li Changxing said, word by word. Huh. Shindong Hai shook his head. Who are you trying to scare? Li Changsheng. Don't you have the Chu family behind you? What's so great about that? Let me tell you. Not only will I not take back my decision, I'll also expel Chu Ming, the combat team, and Wu Xiaowan. What do you do to me? You. Li Changxing's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. He took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. He was really afraid that he would tear Shindong Hai apart in anger. To him, killing Shindong Hai was as easy as killing an ant. However, if he evaporated a person for no reason, it would cause commotion. All right, Shindong Hai, I'll remember your words. Since you like to play dirty and like to play power games, then I'll play with you. I heard that the Shun family behind you is not a small family. It's because of the Shun family that you can become the principal. Then I'll make the Shun family go bankrupt first and let you taste despair. Is that so? Shindong Hai sneered. You want to touch my Shun family? Do you have the ability? Let's wait and see. Li Changsheng turned and walked out of the office. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.